Downtown Chicago, outbound 23 minutes with congestion approaching 190, and it's slow going on 190 into the airport, especially from River Road to Manheim and into the terminal area where there's congestion at O'Hare. Got eyes?
Hey.
Can you talk to me, please?
Reverend Erie, we need you to speak so we can make sure that we have you.
Avenue. There's a crash in the right lane. Traffic is slowing.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
start around
4,
Central.
3,
30 minutes from the Veterans Memorial to DuSable Lakeshore Drive. Ryan, 15 minutes.
Can you hear him? Just keep talking, Reverend Erie.
I can hear him now. Just the Facebook's on a huge delay, but I can hear him now.
Oh, okay, fantastic. That's great.
I don't know if you've caught the
Thank you so much. Thank you, Pastor Erie. Give you a moment to get your thoughts together. I'm going to get my thoughts together.
CPT 820.
Pull down a couple more of these stories.
I'll second guest dinners with friends because they can be interrupted by diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or oily stools. It turns out I have EPI, or exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, which means I'm missing the enzymes needed to digest food. My doctor prescribed Creon, pancrelipase, an oral prescription medication that replaces pancreatic digestive enzymes. Creon treats EPI due to cystic fibrosis, chronic pancreatitis, pancreatectomy, or other conditions.
Creon may increase your chance of fibrosing colonopathy, a rare bowel disorder. Tell your doctor if you have a history of intestinal blockage or scarring or thickening of your bowel wall. If you're allergic to portal and joints, call your doctor if you have any unusual or severe gastrointestinal symptoms or allergic reactions. Take Creon as directed by your doctor and always with food. Do not chew capsules as this may cause mouth irritation. Other side effects may include blood sugar changes, gas, dizziness, sore throat, and cough. These are not all the side effects of Creon.
Creon is the #1 prescribed EPI treatment. Ask your doctor about Creon for EPI and visit creoninfo.com or call 800-633-9110 to learn more. That's CREON.
How much time do we have?
WCPT 8.
I threw those 2 extra minutes in there for you. Need more time?
Yeah, just if you give me one more minute.
Too slow.
Cool. I'll throw an extra minute.
I appreciate it.
Bias.
I'm worried about your weight.
Don't you care what other people think?
Millions who live and are affected by obesity face weight bias every day.
You're not the right fit for this job.
Unfair judgment by others.
Just stop eating so much and exercise some. You lose all this weight.
These people often blame themselves.
It's just me. Nobody likes me. I do exercise and eat right. And I talk to my doctor.
Weight bias hurts.
Everyone deserves to be treated with dignity and respect.
Your words and actions matter.
Let's stop weight bias.
Let's work together.
Be part of the solution. Go to stopweightbias.com and learn more. A public service message from Obesity Action Coalition.
You're never completely ready to adopt a teen.
For late nights writing English papers.
For your teen's music taste.
For dinners, where they talk more on their phone than with you.
For the first time, they call you mom.
You're never completely ready to adopt a teen, and you can't imagine the reward.
To learn more about adopting a teen, visit adoptuskids.org.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Marcel Spears. Keeping our global neighborhoods
You're welcome. We got 90 seconds left.
America's brave military dogs. These dogs keep our troops safe by sniffing out bombs and IEDs and locating enemy positions. Yet when these K9 heroes retire, they're too often left overseas. American Humane works to bring these valiant dogs home and reunites them with their handlers for happy, healthy retirements. To learn how you can help, visit AmericanHumane.org.
60 seconds, everyone.
And Zach lingered in foster care for years, longing for a permanent place to call home. They lost hope.
I felt alone in the world. I didn't feel loved. Every day felt like a lost cause. I thought, who would want to adopt an older child?
I thought, I'm going to end up on the streets. That's just how it's going to be.
Thankfully, Corey and Zach's journey changed when they were adopted with help from the Dave Thomas Foundation for Adoption.
It's really difficult to wonder how you're going to make it. I'm not going to have that problem now. I just won't. Because I have a family.
Today, Corey and Zach have bright futures. But every year, thousands of youth age out of foster care.
10 seconds.
Thank you. Family and no safety net. Learn more at davethomasfoundation.org.
We can change the world.
change the world, change the world. Yes, we can. We can change the world. We can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love. It's not too late. Gotta save the children. We can't wait. Let's change the world. I am green.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. I was out a couple of days taking care of my health, but I feel great, everybody. It's great being back with you today on the Santita Jackson Show on Monday, October 24th. 2022, just 2 weeks and 1 day away from the midterms elections. Are you registered to vote? Are you still registered to vote? Are you planning to vote? If you are planning to vote, please, please, please go to vote.org if you're not voting early. Many people are. Go to vote.org and find out if you're still registered to vote. That's what you need to do. And then you can find out where you need to go vote because they're closing precincts all over the place. You know, even in Virginia, in this election cycle, 60,000 people were misdirected. They were told to go to the wrong polling places, 30,000 in Northern Virginia, 30,000 in Southern Virginia. It's important for you to know where you need to go vote, and please don't get caught flat-footed on the day of the primary. And go to, if you get there and you bump into voter intimidation, and we're going to be talking about that today because that's a very real issue. Republicans promised it that would happen, and it's happening. You have in some instances, armed citizens, I'm presuming, who are standing at the polling places, protecting the integrity of the vote. You can't make this stuff up. If that happens to you, or if you have some kind of problem in the polls, please don't leave. Call 1-866-OUR-VOTE, 1-866-OUR-VOTE, and find out what you need to do. That's a clearinghouse of election lawyers who will be able to tell you exactly what to do. So don't leave the polling place. Once you leave, you're not going to be able to get back in. Don't do that. So if you have a problem, any kind of problem, call them at 1-866-OUR-VOTE, 1-866-OUR-VOTE, and get directions from them and protection from them. And of course, Rainbow Push offices will be open. We need volunteers because we drive people to the polls. And we just in general make sure that people are all right, even directing people to 1-866-OUR-VOTE. Call us at 773-FREEDOM, 773-FREEDOM, so that we can get your volunteers, so we can get the volunteers out. And we're going to be doing some stuff there throughout the day. So I'm going to be talking about that more and more as we get closer to Election Day, 2 weeks from tomorrow. Everybody, I want to talk with you about how you can plan your vote and vote your plan at the bottom of the hour, but we're going to be talking about voter intimidation that is happening all across the country. And we have got to talk about that today. But we're also going to be talking about this discussion about the black male being a problem for the Democratic Party. Why is he voting for Trump? What is wrong with the black male? Black women are saving the Democratic Party. And we kind of got into that yesterday for those of you, my morning stars, and so many of you listen to us on Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson that I produce and host along with Reverend Jesse Jackson. And we got into a discussion that got to be quite it was quite the discussion. And it was sparked by State Senator Nina Turner, who's going to be on with us in less than an hour. She said, look, black men are not the problem in the party. For the most part, black men and black women vote. We might differ by about 5 to 10 points. So basically, we're in alignment with each other. The question is, to my way of thinking, as I look down on the numbers, white women did not vote for Stacey Abrams. They voted for Brian Kemp. White women did not vote for Beto O'Rourke. They voted for Ted Cruz. So I think we need to ask that question too. But we also have to look at this schism, this public schism that is being driven between black men and black men and black women. And we can't fall for that. If Stacey Abrams does not win, and we hope that she does, and it turns out they're having record-breaking turnout in Georgia, she could win. It will not be the fault of black men. No. And we need to talk about that today. We need to figure out why white women continue to vote for these oppressive candidates. Not all, but most. So let's talk about that today. And you know what? I was with my friend Melissa Rizzi from the station. I haven't been in there really since the pandemic, and I miss everyone. I miss everybody there. Antonio and Steve and Mark and Matt, who I just saw a couple of weeks ago, and all my people. I miss you, Devin. I miss you. But I got a wonderful note from Jeffrey Cole Hagan, in which he expressed his appreciation for the effort made to put this show on. And it was written a year ago. I wish I'd received it before, but I haven't been in the office. But I wanted you to know, if you're still listening to the show, Mr. Cole Hagan, how much I appreciated that note. And it's something that I will hold in my heart forever. Really, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm the staff on the show, but I thank God, because I do have some people who really help me to get up on StreamYard and all of that. And you know, I do it for you. Really, we're all in this together. We're all in this together. So everybody, let's get right to it so we can get some good news and get on with the rest of the show. It is Monday, October 24th, 2022. Chicago's going to be a positively balmy day. Thank heaven. 74 degrees will be the high, scattered showers. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 70 degrees, scattered showers. It feels like spring. I love it. I love it. The Bears will be playing the Patriots tonight. Who will win? The Vikings are first in the NFC North. Will wait for their next game. The Astros versus the Phillies. That's who will be meeting in the World Series. Wonderful, wonderful World Series it will be. Who's going to be America's team, the Astros or the Phillies? We will see starting on Friday night. The Celtics will be playing the Bulls tonight, and the Timberwolves were triumphant over the Thunder 116-106. The UK will not have Boris Johnson as their next prime minister. He has decided to stand down, but someone who is standing up is Rishi Sunak. Who is he? He is a very, very wealthy former finance prime minister. He's married to one of the wealthiest women in Great Britain. And guess what? He would, should he win, be the first Southeast Asian prime minister of Great Britain. So we'll see how all of this works. But he's also extremely conservative, everybody. Extremely conservative. And so it's kind of interesting because, you know, less than 0.1% of Brits will have voted for this new prime minister. It's a very interesting system. I've got to get someone on here to talk about that, but it's a very interesting system. In fact, I was with Keith Vaz this weekend, who came in to support Jonathan Jackson. And Keith Vaz, who is he? He is the longest serving British member of Parliament of color. That's right. That's right. And it's interesting how people of color have an investment in watching people of color make it everywhere. And not just people of color, but the perspective of the progressives. They're interested in what's happening with Beto O'Rourke and John Fetterman. This is really not about color, everybody. It's about kind. Think about that, everybody. A common respiratory virus known as RSV is spreading at unusually high levels in the U.S. and is overwhelming children's hospitals. Symptoms may look like a common cold and include a runny nose, decreased appetite, coughing, sneezing, fever, and wheezing, according to the CDC. But in some children, especially young infants, this can be dangerous, leading to dehydration, breathing trouble, and serious illness. Everybody, please watch out for the children. Hurricane Rosalind made landfall in west central Mexico on Sunday, flooding roads and damaging buildings along the country's Pacific coast. The hurricane has since weakened rapidly to a tropical storm, but left widespread destruction from the high winds and downpour. The Trump Organization's criminal tax fraud trial kicks off today in New York. Former President Donald Trump is not a defendant in the case and is not expected to be implicated in any wrongdoing, but if convicted, the Trump Organization would face maximum fines of $1.6 million, the most allowed under New York state law. And those are some of the headlines on the Santita Jackson Show. I want you to call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. Are you voting in 2022? If so, what is the leading issue for you? And do you expect the Democrats to win? Remember, even though the pie is like about 37% Democrats, about 29% Republicans, and about 27% independents, the fact is there are technically more registered Democrats in the United States than any other party. Republicans are where they are. Democrats are where they are. The independents float. And more Americans are becoming independent. You know, you might vote for a Republican candidate here, a Democratic candidate there. Where do you think all of this is going? Call me at 773-763-9278. Pastor Todd Yeary, it's wonderful to hear your voice this morning. Douglas Memorial Community Church, who, of course, pastored by Reverend Dr. Raphael Warnock before you assumed the pastorate. What a tremendous legacy you are in. You are a fine man to be in that space. How are you this morning?
Good morning, Santita. Good to be with you. I am well. I hope you are too.
Look, I'm well, and I can't wait to have you back on the political discussion. A great place for you to be as we talk about just really where our politics are. But right now, we need some good news. Things are so crazy,
Well,
Pastor.
We can start with some easy good news. It was 80 degrees in Chicago on Saturday. I don't know what happened. I don't know what you all have been drinking, but I was there to bear witness to it, and I soaked as much of it up as I could. Now, I may not be back until April, because we do know that it may turn into something else.
Be quiet. You better put on that heavy coat and keep your mouth shut. Just be quiet.
Oh, look, I'm just saying, honey, let's be clear. You know, Big Mama said you better dress for the calendar, not for the forecast. We're going to go on and do that thing anyhow. So let's just go on and get right down to it, because I know you have big things to do. Here we go. Good morning, Chicago. Morning, Twin Cities. Here we go. Look, you all thought you were finished with me. He's back. So get up, get going, put your feet on the floor, feel the coolness of the towel. It's getting a little cooler. The weather's changing. Recognize that you are alive. So get up, get moving. You got to change the world. Take a deep breath of LIFE with it. Inhale it. Soak it up. Get ready, because you got some things to do. Get that morning Joe going, get that OJ. Don't forget, drink that water. Got to stay hydrated, because we got to be able to do the thing. I need to talk to you. Santita, last week, maybe it was last week, there was this huge story. It was an amazing story about an image that had come back from the Webb telescope or the Webb satellite, showing this cloud 7,000 light years away from Earth. 7,000 light years away, way out beyond anything that we could see. And they called this view of this cloud the pillar of creation, the pillar of creation. It looked like just some random cloud. And inside this cloud, gases were compressing at such a rate that new stars, yes, new masses were being created 7,000 light years away beyond anything that we would be able to see. And yet there's still creation happening beyond our ability to perceive it. And I thought about it. I said, you know what? That's pretty amazing. We have to remember that there's a principle here that we should not forget. I want to drop this on you, and then you'll get on with your day. Number one, this massive cloud looked like dust, looked like a big old dust cloud, like somebody needs to clean their house. Will somebody get a broom and sweep up 7,000 light years away, because it just didn't look like there was anything of value happening. I want to say to you this morning, don't be discouraged by how your circumstance looks, because in the midst of what looks to be out of order, there's something powerful happening. The second thing is you got to recognize that God is at work, even when we can't see what God is doing. 7,000 light years away, you'll never know it. If it had not been for this picture coming back, we may have never even realized that there's a creative power in the universe still at work, and that power is at work within us. And remember, last thing, get ready to do your thing today, change the world, because there's something stirring inside of you. One of the things you could see in this image, inside this cloud, was you could see the creation of the stars beginning to shine in the midst of this cloud, happening at a creative pace that no one could really track. And yet, there was still something powerful going on. You may not be able to see it, you may not be able to perceive it, but there's something great and awesome happening inside of you. And remember, if we look to the New Testament text, we have a definition. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And baby, you ain't seen nothing yet. Go on and be your bad self. Watch what God's going to do with and in your life, and go on and change the world without apology, because you are the pillar of creation. That's it. That's all. Start your week off right, and I'll look to talk to you soon. Have a great day, Santita.
At 7:00, as a matter of fact, Central Standard Time. I needed that today. It's a cloud, things that you can't see, but something great is happening in there. You never know, but that's why you got to keep on hanging in there, everybody. Pastor Todd Yeary, Douglas Memorial Community Church at Rainbow Push, of course. Everybody, let's get to Dr. Nina at Hey Dr. Nina. We're so glad to hear your voice. Registered nurse, infection preventionist, nurse scientist, research scientist. She's the executive director of Apex Center for IPC Research, Practice, and Innovation. It's probably the largest gathering of epidemiologists and infection control specialists in the world. We're always so glad to have you with us today, every day. Talk to me about RSV. Because I'm a little confused about it, and I'm concerned because so many children, they're saying, have it. They're seeing a surge in these cases. They say it's, the reports say it's not serious, but it could be serious. What is RSV and where could it go? Dr. Knighton?
Says she's there.
Okay,
I was talking, but I was on mute.
It's all right.
So respiratory syncytial virus, it's a common respiratory virus, and it usually performs like a mild cold. However, one of the biggest issues is like the symptoms, which is interesting because a lot of them look alike, right? Like runny nose, decrease in appetite, cough and sneezing, fever, wheezing. So a lot of stuff that typically we would see with COVID. Symptoms, though, I was going to say a kid can be contagious for about 5 to 8 days, and they can infect others for as long as like 1 month. So unlike, let's say, a cold where like the shedding of a cold will start to kind of like taper off, with this, it tends to linger around for a little bit longer. The other piece of it is even though it is deemed as being common, for children that receive it, and it's not even just children, I also want to point out the fact that young children are at risk, but also older adults. So just as you would see RSV in children, you also see it in our elderly population as well. And when we're talking about someone that is already small, that potentially may not be good eaters or good drinkers to begin with, we know that not having an appetite and not eating means that there's a lack of nutrition that's able to actually support the immune system. We know that if they're not drinking, they're also more prone to be dehydrated. So when things like that happen, it actually ends up leading to hospitalizations in order for them to be able to get adequate fluids. Because it is respiratory. Children can be noisy breathers already without even being sick. And so then when they are sick, they're having a lot of labored breathing as a result of having the RSV. So that then might mean that they may need some sort of respiratory treatments in order to help them out. So it's highly contagious, just as I pointed out, and the kid can transfer it to another kid for up to 30 days. Same thing with older adults, right? And so when you know that somebody is contagious for that long period of time, it can be scary because that's actually, believe it or not, it's a longer duration than what COVID can be transmitted.
That's unbelievable. I mean, so is there any way that you can confirm? I've got about a minute left, minute and a half. How can you confirm whether your child has it or not? I mean, what do you do?
So my first thing is anytime like there is any symptoms that is making your child, anytime somebody's at risk of not breathing and they turn in, let's say, different colors, or you know that they're reacting in a way that's not of their normal behavior, trust your gut and trust your intuition and take your kid in if that is the case, because unfortunately there's not a lot of time for you to waste. And then on top of that, you want to make sure that you're putting your kid in the best position possible, or an older adult. And so when you do go in, they will evaluate the symptoms. They will see if that kid has it, and essentially they'll treat it.
Dr. Shanina Knighton, everybody go to Hey Dr. Nina. Hey Dr. Nina at Hey Dr. Nina. I catch her on Instagram and throughout on social media. Her latest posting is lifestyle habits in the era of COVID and beyond. It's about hand hygiene, exercise, good nutrition, sleep, and it's made so plain that even I can understand. Dr. Shanina Knighton sending you much love, everybody. Coming up, let's talk about the midterms. We are 2 weeks and 1 day away from the midterms. Are you still on the voter rolls? You might think that you are. You might even have your voter registration card, but you need to call vote. You need to go to vote.org and find out. You can find out in a couple of minutes if you've been purged from the voter rolls. You need to find out where you need to go vote. In Northern and Southern Virginia, 60,000 voters were misdirected just a few weeks ago. They were sent official letters and they were told to go to the wrong place. That's a lot. So let's talk about that, everybody. And let's talk about black men and black women. And there's this schism that we're seeing the media drive about black men and black women, that they're so far apart. That's not true. Black women and white women are real far apart, because white women supported Brian Kemp over Stacey Abrams and Greg Abbott over Beto O'Rourke. Let's talk about it on the Santita Jackson Show. Dr. Knighton, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Oh, girl, honey, I am doing well, girly girl. Girl, just working, getting my health together.
Yes, you know what I want to talk about tomorrow, Santita?
Oh, please, let me write it down. Yeah.
So the CDC director, got COVID.
Malinsky?
And what was so interesting, so she got COVID. And what's so interesting, I was going to say, for me, has been the Twitter world, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So she was mentioning on there how diligent how people need to practice hand hygiene. And when I tell you, you would have been so shocked and surprised to see scientists, downplay and minimize and say, oh, wow, we know hand hygiene doesn't work. When I tell you, I was just so interested in, it's just interesting when you think about the take of literally the mindset of some individuals really think that medicines cure everything.
Yes.
And that something that's hygiene, before we did not have any vaccines, did not have any form of treatment, literally is being downplayed as if it never worked.
You know, you got it, and I'll bring you on a little early tomorrow, because I think that you need to speak to that, how important it is. I mean, because we also put sanitizer over soap and water. I mean, and when I go out to eat now, I mean, I've always done that. I didn't realize it, but I told you my grandmother was a germaphobe. She worked in the hospital serving food, and she was a vegetarian. She did not she felt that people were germy. When she'd come and stay with us for Christmas, which was every Christmas, my parents have a big old house.
Sending Senator Taylor through Attorney Patillo and Chaparral.
Thank you. And you have these little teeny weeny little side rooms. Honey, she would spread out. She would make a pallet on the floor. And because she didn't want to stay in a room with anybody. She felt
Look, did you hear what I said? I done seen your hand washing. You create a hand washing station wherever you go.
Oh, you be quiet. Leave me alone. We're leaving Dr. Knighton alone now. She's got to go. Because she looked at me out the corner of her eye. I couldn't believe you looking at me out the corner of your eye.
No, listen, I was mad at it. I was happy that you did it. I said, well, at least I know I ain't got COVID today.
No, let me tell you something. You know what? My grandmother would make you bathe when you walked in her house. You had to take your clothes off in her garage when we were flying when we get to her home in Virginia. And she had 3 bathrooms. And the bathtubs, they were already, I don't know, she must have put boiling water in there, because she would pick us up from the airport and she'd bring us, and everybody had to take a bath. Not a shower, a bath. She said, you must soak.
Back in 60, everyone.
Is that crazy? You guys, that was my grandmother, Gertrude. But you know what? She died with all of her teeth. She was 94. She had all of her teeth, and she was predisposed toward heart disease, but she did have a stroke, but she lived 3 years past a massive stroke. And the doctors were amazed by her health. But I tell you what the doctors said to her about the fact that she was a vegetarian, because they were trying to figure out why she was so just overall so healthy. And my mother said, well, she doesn't eat any meat and no meat products and dairy. No. She said, the doctor said, first we killed the animals, then they kill us. There's that.
10 seconds, everyone.
Wasn't that good news? Okay. So hand hygiene tomorrow. We're on it. You want to listen to this conversation we're about to have about politics?
I am.
Okay, stay right there.
Change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world. I am green.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station. Hey, Morning Stars, like and share the show, everybody. Like and share the show. Meet us over on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel and the Santita Jackson and Friends page. The Santita Jackson page is just a landing page. I can't take any friends there, but I can welcome new friends onto Santita Jackson and Friends, and I do hope that you'll meet me there. And let's talk here at 773-763-9278. I want to get some feedback about you. I've been asked to do several shows, at which I will be letting you know about, and they all want to know what you're thinking. And I say, I talk with my people. I talk to my people, and I'm here to express to you what my people think. And I want to know what you think. I don't want to just talk about you. I don't want to speculate and give people my opinions and mask them as yours. So call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278, and let America know, because people from all over the country, indeed from all over the world, are listening to this station. It's the largest progressive talk radio station in the country. And Minneapolis, AM 950 radio. People are listening. I'm shocked. I bump into people. I bumped into someone in the airport. I started speaking, and the woman turned around. She looked at me, and she said, "Oh, my goodness, you're Santita Jackson." I said, "Yes." I had on a mask. She said, "I know your voice anywhere. I listen to you every morning." I was like, wow. She's out in L.A. So, everybody, we're a lot closer and a lot more linked, closely linked than we know. I hope that you will get out and vote on November 8th. That is 2 weeks from tomorrow, everybody. Go to vote.org. Find out if you've been purged from the voter rolls. Find out where you can go vote. And then if you are doing early voting, if you're engaging in that, make sure that you call 1-866-OUR-VOTE, 1-866-OUR-VOTE, if you have any kinds of challenges at the polls. Do not leave the polls. Don't leave. Stay there. Talk to 866-OUR-VOTE, all those lawyers who are there waiting for you, and they will guide you through the process. Don't leave until you've gotten instructions from them. Chaparral, how you doing? Celebrations by us. Well, it seems like you might need to go back to summer food. It's in the 70s. Oh, wow. Unbelievable.
I tell you, I read a post the other day, Santita, and it tells you about Chicago weather. This is our second summer, so it's only lasting a week, so I'm good. But we are definitely taking orders for the holiday season, because guess what? Thanksgiving is right around the corner.
Honey, you might have to have a luau if global warming keeps up.
Don't hesitate to give us a call, 708-526-4546, 708-526-4546. We can take care of all of your holiday needs, but not only your food, but we can do your decor, your setup, your Christmas trees, as well as also your Thanksgiving table decor, whatever you need. Call us at 708-526-4546. We look forward to serving you. Thank you so much, Santita.
I am too, but like I said, you might need to go on and put on that Put on those lovely island clothes because we might have to have a luau. This weather's crazy. I'll take it, though. I'll take it because I'll take it. I love winter clothes, but I do not like the cold. Love you, Chaparral Wells. Hey, everybody. Let's talk about planning your vote and voting your plan. What is happening at the polls? A whole lot's happening at the poll. In Mesa, Arizona, there is a news story that shows that armed poll watchers are there, just looking over, just making sure that everything stays safe. These are citizens. These are not the police now. And then you saw what happened in Florida. The election police, written into law, signed into law by Governor Ron DeSantis, they've been arresting people. Now, one of the cases was not successful, but they've been arresting people who have been told by officials that they can go vote. It's just not ending. So fighting for the vote is a real thing, and it's not just in the South. It's in the Southwest. It's in the South. It's in the North. It's in the West. It's in the Northeast. It's everywhere. Remember, the original idea in this country was for a very, very small percentage, not even the 1%, to vote. Only propertied white males could vote. That was it, which meant that 99% of everybody else could not vote. And it's always been a fight to enfranchise Americans. That's been the fight. It's the fight to enfranchise people all over the world. That's why you have monarchies and oligarchies. They're basically the same thing. So we have to really, really take this American project very, very seriously, everybody. I want you to call me at 773-763-9278. What about these armed poll watchers? We have got Attorney Robert Patillo, Southeastern Regional Director for Rainbow Push. And we have got Wisconsin State Senator Lena Taylor with us this morning. We've got a lot to talk about today because, boy, we're going to have another conversation with her sister from another Mr. State Senator Nina Turner, and of course, State Senator Lena Taylor. We love it because only God could have made these women this closely linked philosophically, and in so many ways. I admire and love them both so much. And you too, Robert Patillo. Robert Patillo, talk to me. Armed poll watchers in Arizona. Are you seeing anything in Georgia? We understand that you have people are really voting that down there at record rates. What's going on?
Absolutely. I think people have understood that with the voter suppression law that Governor Kemp passed last year, SB 202, that voting early was a necessity. The best way to cure defects to me is this. Let's say you find out your parents from the voting rolls. You find out your district on record that your voter registration's been challenged, or your vote has been challenged by one of these people that now can challenge votes. The best way to cure those is to try to vote early, and so you can always come back after you get it fixed, as opposed to voting on election day, where it becomes an entire ordeal. So we've really been pushing and encouraging people to vote early, particularly since they've now made voting drop boxes all but illegal in the state, which were huge helps in 2020 when it came to getting the vote out, particularly during the pandemic, and also cutting down on early voting hours in certain jurisdictions. So it's all been about making sure people have information. The candidates have invested a lot in attack ads. The nonprofit groups, Us, People's Agenda, FTLC, NAACP, Fair Fight, many of the others, New Georgia Project, Black Voters Matter, have been putting a lot of effort, a lot of resources into ensuring people that know about and are planning for early voting. As a result of this, we're yet to see situations like Arizona with the armed vigilantes confronting people, but we do have our voter protection hotline set up so people can either call the Rainbow Push Coalition office here in Atlanta, or they can call 1-800-OUR-VOTE if they have voting issues to report issues of that nature. But right now, it's all about encouraging as many people as possible to early vote, because record turnout, record numbers mean that we have a better chance of maintaining the civil and political rights that we're fighting for in this election.
State Senator Lena Taylor, excuse me. Goodness, I'm conflating you and Nina together. I know it happens all the time, but wow. Ooh, But talk to me. What are you seeing in the state of Wisconsin? What are you seeing in Milwaukee? Of course, when you were running for mayor, you barely had any precincts open. When Charles Booker was running for the U.S. Senate in 2018 in Kentucky, they had one super site open for 660,000 people. And now we've got these armed poll watchers. Now we've got the GOP saying months ago, look, we're going to deploy 50,000 people across all the 50 states and territories to observe these elections. What's going on?
Well, we've had issue with voters being challenged, intimidated. There was the green jacket movement. There's been misinformation that's been done. These are the things that we've had happen from a partisan perspective before. And then, as Greg Palast said in the movie, and showed in the movie, we've experienced some things that have happened in primary time, which has mostly been through Democrats, that something has happened. But the concept of really making it where masses of people are challenged, we're concerned because this is something that we've seen happen in our community before. And it's been done by individuals that didn't really necessarily even live in our community. So that's one of the law changes that, who can be in the polling sites, who can be challenged, what areas they can come from. So now that we know that they've been doing this in other states in this election cycle, it's concerning. So we've been ramping up to make sure that we're telling people, and what you can see on the ground is that people are trying to make sure that individuals are prepared. Well, first of all, inspired to go vote. And second of all, prepared. And I will say, and prepared with numbers in case somebody is there challenging them. Prepared if they go there and someone's saying, well, you don't have the right this or the right that. That is going to be, there's going to be a lot of that. There's going to be a lot of that is what I believe. And so as a result of that, making sure that people have the contact numbers of where to call if they're experiencing voter suppression, what to do if they're experiencing voter suppression. We showed vigilante, and then afterwards, we realized that what will also be good, so when we show it on November the 2nd at the Women's African American Women's Center at 6 p.m., we're also going to make sure that people have the tools that day when they leave on what do you do if you are challenged at the poll? What do you do if they tell you that you can't get a ballot? Well, then you ask for your ballot anyway, so you can have a provisional ballot, and then you go and cure that ballot because that will make a difference.
I need you to explain that to me, because I have to tell you, I was offered a provisional ballot once when there was some confusion about whether I voted or not, which was not true. They said I'd voted just after 6 a.m. Life-changing experience for me, you guys. You've heard me talk about it so much. That having been said, I said, I do not want a provisional ballot. I want to go in this booth and vote. Do not give me that. And you're saying that I was wrong. I should have, we worked it out. You're saying that a provisional ballot is okay. Talk to us about that.
It is okay. Now, first of all, in the end, I'm not telling you not to try to, work out whatever you can in that moment to get a ballot so that your ballot is not provisional. But if you run into something in your ballot, you cannot get a ballot, and a provisional ballot is what you are being offered, take it. Take it and do it. And let me tell you why. One, you have a certain amount of time, and make sure you know the amount of time, it's days, to come back and to cure that provisional ballot.
What does that mean? Cure.
Whatever the challenge.
Cure. What does that mean?
To cure. C-U-R-E. To fix it. F-I-X. Fix it. Right?
Okay.
To fix it so it no longer will be considered a provisional ballot, but it actually gets cured, gets fixed, so that it can be counted. Maybe it's your ID wasn't valid, or maybe they questioned if you're in Wisconsin off of probation or parole or extended supervision. I don't know what the issue might be, but I'm going to tell you, there's a guy here. He's an alderman now in one of the suburbs in my district called Wauwatosa. His name is Sean Lowe. Sean won by guess how many votes, Santita?
How many?
One.
What?
One vote. It was one person who did a provisional ballot and came back. And that person came back and fixed their ballot. And because of that, it was, if I remember right, it might have been after that a tie, and they had to flip a coin, and Sean Lowe won. One vote. So people often say, oh, my vote's not going to count. The only reason it doesn't count is because you're not casting it. But if you cast it, it will count and it will matter. And that's, I think, the most important part. And so be prepared to know that people are trying to challenge your vote and challenge you from being able to even have a voice in these elections. And you need to ask yourself, why does somebody want to work so hard to get rid of my vote if it don't matter? Because it does. Because it is a powerful voice that you have through your vote. And because elections matter, they pick the individuals who help to vote on the budgets, and budgets have moral consequences. And so making sure that you know that people are going to challenge you in this season. There have been, as Santita, as you said, people, dispensed, so to say, or distributed, so to say, around the nation in order to be able to challenge people when they go to vote. And you know who they're going to challenge? They're going to challenge people. It's kind of like what happens with the police. When they stop and frisk people, well, it's a similar concept that people are about to experience, except at the ballot box. And you want to be prepared. So that's what I see on the ground here. People doing everything to inspire and prepare people for this election season that they're about to go in, including the poll workers are being trained on how to do everything from deal with gunshot wounds to where to go to barricade themselves, what to do if individuals are harassing voters, just across the board. And it has made getting poll workers a little more challenging because of the concerns that we actually have for this season.
We're talking with Wisconsin State Senator Lena Taylor about planning your vote, voting your plan. There are people who are armed and who are at the polls waiting to intimidate you, waiting to stop you from voting. You need to be clear on what you need to do if it happens inside or outside the polls. You need to know what your rights are. You need to know that there are people who are on guard waiting for you. 1-866-OUR-VOTE. 1-866-OUR-VOTE. It's lawyers from all over the country who are sitting at the phone waiting for you to call. If you are early voting, if you're going to be voting on Tuesday, November 8th, please call 1-866-OUR-VOTE. If you have any problems voting, do not leave the polling place, Robert. I think it's important for people to understand that they should not leave the polling place. Can you explain why?
Well, once you leave the polling place, now you lose a lot of your negotiating power. You lose your parking line, and you're less likely to come back. Also, you can report from line many of the issues. So let's say you have a provisional ballot issue. Someone is challenging your electoral status, you can call 1-800-OUR-VOTE, and we can connect you with an election protection lawyer through many of the organizations that are volunteering time and resources to defend these issues. You can also get in contact with the Secretary of State's office or your local Board of Elections, if it's not been taken over by the Republican state legislature, in order to have election officials come out to challenge it. So we recommend for people to stay there, stay in line, don't lose your spot, don't try to come back later, stick it out, call your job, let them know you'll get there soon, call your child care, let them know you'll be there to pick up the kids, but you have to handle this now because the entire point of voter suppression, as Reverend Jackson has told us, is about skimming. It's not about Bull Connor standing outside the polls with hose and dogs anymore. It's about getting that 1 out of every 100 people to get out of line, that 1% of the vote. If you look at a county like Georgia, where President Biden won by 11,000 votes, we're talking about 1 out of 1,000 voters is all that it took to change the outcome of that election. So all they're attempting to do is to get every few hundred people, 1 or 2 people to get out of line, to give up, to not stick it out, because that's what they need in order to be able to win. And when we talk about voter suppression, you have to understand that it's about making sure, just trying to nibble around the edges to change the outcomes in the smallest amount possible. And that's what the voter intimidation efforts are about. That's what the change of these state laws is about. That's what having those long 16-hour lines are about, trying to get you to get out of line and give up so they can win.
Hey, everybody, 1-866-OUR-VOTE. Please, if you are in line, do not leave. And before you go to vote.org, vote.org. Find out if you are still on the voter rolls. Find out where you need to go vote. In Northern and Southern Virginia, in this cycle, just a few weeks ago, it was reported in the Washington Post that 60,000 people were sent the wrong directions by the voting authorities. You need to find out where you need to go vote. Remember, they closed more than 100 precincts here in Chicago. So when the June primary came around, more than 100,000 people were trying to figure out, well, at least theoretically, it impacted more than 100,000 people. And even though I don't think that many people voted, that's a lot. The day of the vote, you do not want to try and figure out where to vote. You don't want to find out that you're not on the voter rolls. You really, really don't want to do that. So please, before we get, and we're going to continue to talk about this right up and through Election Day. But you know what? I want to, let me go to you, Robert Patillo. We are about to pivot to Stacey Abrams' race. Of course, and it was reported in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. She said, look, if Black men vote for me, I will win. And it sparked a lot of discussion about Black men. 12% of Black men did not vote for her. They voted for Brian Kemp. And we're seeing more and more Black men move into the Republican column. But overwhelmingly, more than 80% of Black men still vote Democrat. And so there's not a lot of daylight, relatively speaking, between Black men and Black men and Black women. And yet, it's almost as if Black men are being set up to take the fall if things don't go the way we want them to go with Stacey Abrams, because I know certainly I'm pulling for her to win. That having been said, no one is talking about the fact. We've got a lot of layers here because we see Black men and Black women being pitted against each other. But Robert, no one talks about the fact that in the Kemp Abrams race, 55% of white women voted for Brian Kemp. Brian Kemp was chosen by, Beto O'Rourke. No, people of color chose him. White women chose Gregory Abbott. Speak to that. I have a couple of minutes before we go.
Well, I think we talked about this a little bit on Reverend Jackson's show yesterday, that it's almost as if Black men get set up each election cycle to be kind of the mindless ones, the ones who are not allowed to have any questions, not allowed to bring up any issues. And because of that, it's almost as if there is any daylight, if Black women are supporting a candidate at 90, 95%, and we're at 88, 89%, the narrative that we see in the media is, well, what's wrong with Black men? But what we don't talk about is the rest of the legs of the Democratic base. What about Hispanic voters who have been moving very much in favor of Republicans, despite the Democratic rhetoric on immigration? Democrats, for some reason, think the only issue that matters to Latino voters is immigration, when in reality, you're talking about people who are deeply Catholic and abortion is an issue. You're talking about people who are small business owners and taxes are issues. We have a lot of issues that are pushing them towards the Republican column, but they don't get the same criticism that black men get, it seems, every election cycle. You talked a lot about white women. People thought that the Dobbs decision would be enough to motivate those suburban white housewives, they call them, the soccer moms or the hockey moms, whatever the turn of phrases of the day, to turn out in record numbers. But we're still seeing in the recent polls and crosstabs that they're breaking for Kemp late, and they're breaking for Republicans late nationwide. So in reality, when we talk about quote unquote black men fleeing to the Republican Party, we're talking about like 30 dudes nationwide. I mean, it's, the polling data just isn't there to back up that narrative. But what we are seeing is an excuse to have more of these panels, we'll have more of these think pieces, and also to trot out more celebrities, because it's one thing that annoys me about Democrats is when it gets close to election time, that's when all the celebrities are going to pop out, because it's as if they think their voters are so supple, so non-sophisticated, that all you got to do is pull out Jay-Z or Beyonce or LeBron, and you just need to be doing the Dougie or twerking somewhere or on stage with some rapper in order to get the attention. And I think that it sours many black men kind of being condescended to, this idea that instead of just coming through and talking to me about policy, I got to see you at homecoming doing the cha-cha slide. It happens most election cycles with black and white candidates alike. I think you remember the famous video of Terry McAuliffe coming out on stage trying to dance for black people before that gubernatorial race. And it just does not work.
Let me go to the break
every time
before I have to put this man out in cyberspace. Oh, Lena, I can't wait for you to respond to that. Coming up, her sister, Nina Turner, on the Santita Jackson Show. And you know, I know Terry McAuliffe. And when I saw him doing the shimmy, I said, Terry. Oh, you know what? You are wrong. But I know this must drive you to distraction, Lena. Senator Taylor, this has just got to make you go. You have got to be kidding me.
You know, I say all the time, I've learned how to talk to black people. I've been black all my life. I lived in the black community all my life. I go to a black church. You know, my mama is black. My daddy's black. My grannies were black. I understand the subliminal messages that we see and all of that. And so when you consider all of that, I'm just overwhelmed that when we wait to the last minute, when we dismiss our voters as people who don't really get it and don't really know, and all we have to do is bring the right concert. All we got to do is make it scary enough, and that will hopefully move people, instead of just doing something I think is really basic, just communicating year round. It's just
year round.
Year round. When you communicate, listen year round to the people and hear what they need and what's important to them, because that is
sending Attorney Hoffler and Senator Turner through.
Ooh, we have Attorney C.K. Hoffler and your sister from another Mr. Nina Turner. Nina.
Yes,
we got Lena Taylor here. Lena Taylor Turner.
She done already called me Lena Turner this morning, Nina.
And you gonna be Lena, Nina. How about that piece? Yeah.
We just Martha and Mary. I love what the pastor said. Martha and
See,
Mary.
still it's alliterative too. The two M's. I mean, look, y'all are hooked at the hip. And of course, CK was at my homecoming this weekend. I wasn't even at the Howard homecoming. All my friends were like, "Where are you, girl?" It broke my heart not to be there this year.
Yeah.
Well, CK, did you have fun?
I did, but I have to say my participation was very limited. My children were here. They participated more. So
well, wait.
Very,
CK,
very interesting.
At this point in our lives, we don't do homecoming.
Right.
The way we used to.
We had something we hosted some stuff at a friend's home, but my children, I couldn't be out there, thousands of millions of people. It just seems like a mass of people having the best time ever, though. Can I just say the best time ever?
You know, my phone is loaded up with pictures. And one guy sent me a picture. It was beautiful. They took a picture and then there was a hole in between the group. They said, "Insert here, Santita." I said, "Oh, wow. Really?" I said, "Really? Are you going to do that to me?" He said, "Mm-hmm. Have fun."
Yep.
Working this weekend, Santita.
Right. But, Santita, it's just wonderful, really, to see it's just wonderful to see. And I didn't go to Howard, but just the I've been going to homecoming for years.
But you went to school in D.C. Come on.
You didn't go to Howard, but you be going to the homecoming.
Girl, yeah.
Too much. Absolutely. But this weekend was because my children wanted to go to the homecoming. So my son wasn't playing football, and he got permission because one of his good friends is playing football here. He got permission to come from his team.
And he had a ball, didn't he?
And he had a ball. And then my other son, he just felt like, well, I'm about to go into college. So, of course, we had to monitor him more closely. So that's that.
Ooh, yeah. But when I was on my way to college, our father used to take us to the homecomings. Of course, I couldn't do anything. Even as a senior, in high school, I could go here with trusted friends, and then he didn't give me a curfew, but I knew that I needed to be in by 10.
Oh, yeah. My son came back. He came back to the house. We didn't even have to tell him, actually. He just came back when it took him maybe an hour to get Uber because he had to walk far. Well, to get through the crowd, to get to some place where Uber could come through.
Oh, yeah.
But it was a great experience. I believe all kids should have that experience. They should see the significance, the power, the camaraderie, the life, the jubilance. And, in this COVID world, and we're coming out of COVID, hopefully, it really was nice to just see people socializing and feeling more comfortable socializing. A lot of people had on masks. A lot of people didn't have on masks. So it's just, that's why I said for
fun.
Me.
The Bayou Classic down in New Orleans?
Yeah.
Where you see 100,000 Black people tailgating. This for us, we saw this 40 years ago. My father said, "Oh yes, this is the tradition of the Black schools." So I was raised on that. Like, oh no,
right, and it's an important tradition.
Oh yeah,
it's an important tradition.
Stand by, everybody.
So again, whether you,
no, keep talking. I got about 20 seconds for you.
Whether you went to Howard or not, it's an important tradition to understand, to follow, and to be at.
Absolutely.
That's what I believe.
My dear friend, who was a Yalie, her parents met and married at Howard. And she considered herself a child of Howard, and she would beat me to homecoming. Candace, you remember Candace? Candace was like, "Oh no, honey, I'm a child of Howard." I'm like, "Candace, you went to Yale."
10 seconds, everyone.
Okay. She wasn't trying to go to Yale's homecoming. Oh no, Nina and Lena and Robert.
We don't need to talk about that kind of thing.
Of course not. There ain't nothing there.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world. We can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love. It's not too late. Gotta save the children. We can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. The second hour. Call us, Otis. You've called back, and I promise you I'm going to come to you. We're talking about Black men, Black women, and the vote. There are so many articles on whether Black men and Black women are not seeing eye to eye on the vote, and it's not quite true, but the media are driving a schism between Black men and Black women, and we need to talk about that. We also need to talk about why white women tend to vote for these white candidates. They chose Brian Kemp over Stacey. They're choosing him over Stacey once again. That's real, everybody. So, maybe we need to look at what's the difference between white women and Black women and white women and, other oppressed group, because we need to talk about that on the Santita Jackson Show. So call me at 773-763-9278. I'm going to get to you just before we get to Nina Turner, everybody. So many of you want to speak with her today. It's Monday, October 24th, 2022. What a great day. It's going to be scattered showers in Chicago, 74 degrees, everybody, almost November. And in Minneapolis, St. Paul, same thing, 70 degrees, scattered showers, everybody. It's going to be the Astros versus the Phillies in the World Series. It's going to be a great, great series, everybody. The Bears will be playing the Patriots tonight, and the Vikings are first in the NFC North. They had a day off, and in the NBA, the Celtics will be playing the Bulls tonight, and the Timberwolves 116, the Thunder 106. It seems that the UK might get their first Southeast Asian Prime Minister. Boris Johnson has decided to stand down, but now the former finance minister, Rishi Sunak, one of the wealthiest men in Britain, has emerged as a front runner to become the next prime minister of Great Britain. A common respiratory virus, everybody, please be careful. RSV is spreading at unusually high levels. Initially, it appears to be mild, but it can develop into something very serious. Go get your children taken care of. As Dr. Shanina Knighton said, trust your own instincts on the health of your children. Hurricane Rosalind made landfall in west central Mexico on Sunday, flooding roads and damaging buildings along the country's Pacific coast. The Trump Organization's criminal tax fraud trial kicks off today in New York. Former President Donald Trump is not a defendant in this case and is not expected to be implicated in any wrongdoing. But if convicted, the Trump Organization would face maximum fines of $1.6 million, everybody. We've been talking about the armed poll watchers in Arizona and all over the place. You know what, Devin, I'm going to send you Aaron Connolly's number. So we are talking about this alleged schism that exists between Black men and Black women and the vote. Before I get to you, brilliant Nina Turner, who has a new show on TYT on the Young Turks Network. I want you to talk to us about that in a hot second, but Otis has called back. He called once earlier and then he called back. Otis, what's on your mind today? Is Otis there? Okay, well, Nina, you got things started off. Oh, Otis, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can hear you.
Otis, what's on your mind? How are you?
I'm doing okay, and you?
It's great hearing your voice.
Okay. All right. I'm calling because about in Georgia about Miss Abrams about black women voting for her more than the men are. The thing is that black men they're asking, what are we getting for our vote? And for black people, not for black men, for black people in general. And she hasn't answered that question yet. But also, there's a lot of women out there that's not voting either for Ms. Abrams.
Well, how has she not answered?
Why the white?
Well, Otis, let me ask you this: how has she not answered the question? She has spoken to poverty. She's spoken to incarceration because she has a brother who's been incarcerated.
Like that?
She's been speaking.
That's not what I said.
No. Then Otis. Then correct me, but you're going to have to do it respectfully. We don't have to speak over each other. I'm trying to engage you, not talk you down and not condescend. So stop, back up, then say it again, And like I said, let's be respectful. You go.
Because the black men in Georgia are not voting for her because they asked her what are we going to get? What are you going to give black people in Georgia? And she has to answer that question. It's not about what she talked about. It's about what is she going to give the black people there in Georgia. Even the women there, a lot of women not voting for her. So as for the other candidate, when you got white women voting for him, the number of white men have voted for that same candidate. But the thing is, there's really not that much confusion. Yes, it is. Because if you ask a black woman, why are you voting for Amber? Because she's black. That's not good enough. Because we fell for that before, voting for somebody of color, and we didn't get nothing in return. But everybody else did.
Okay,
so it's just all about the men want something for their vote. They want something for black people before they vote for her. That's all that is.
Okay.
Well, can I just say something?
Well, yeah, of course. Well, stay right there, Otis, because I want you to engage him. But then I've got to get Nina Turner, whose show, Unbossed, will start on TYT. Well, started on October 17th, everybody. Live weekdays, 4 p.m. Eastern time. You've got to tune in and let everybody know that they need to tune in because we need to keep the show on the air. CK?
Yes, first of all, I want to thank the caller for asking that question. I live in Atlanta. I've lived there for about a decade. And this is a question I'm going to pose, and then I'm going to answer your question. What is Brian Kemp doing for black people? So if you don't vote for Stacey Abrams, you're voting for Brian Kemp, or if you don't vote at all, you're voting for Brian Kemp. So my first question is, if you can articulate, please help me. What is Brian Kemp doing for black people in Georgia? Because that would be a resounding nothing other than taking away our ability to vote without suppression and imposing oppression. So I live there. I'm there every single day. And if you do too, then you probably live that and know that's true. So what we do for the goose, we must do for the gander. What is Brian Kemp doing for black people? There cannot be anything positive in his response to that question. That's number one. But let me answer the question that you posed. What is Stacey Abrams? What would they get for the vote? What they would get is someone who actually practices what she preaches when it comes to policing reform, when it comes to education, when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to voting. These are all things that she has already done because Stacey Abrams has been in the legislature. She has a record on voting. She has a record on every single one of the issues that are germane to the black community. Her record is clear. There's not some confusion. There's not some lack of clarity on where she stands on these issues. Voting. She has litigation for voting. She has registered more voters in Georgia than anyone in recent history as a candidate. That's number one. Healthcare. We know what her position is on healthcare. She's trying to bring a level playing field for healthcare so that all people in Georgia can have access to healthcare. Education. She's taken a very, very, very significant position on education, raising the levels of education that would impact black and brown children. I can go down every single line and tell you what Stacey Abrams stands for. So, and what she said. So when I'm not sure who or where that question was posed and she didn't answer because I've been following her. She answers that over and over and over.
Well, hold on.
That's not the issue, I would respectfully say.
Well,
in terms of what can she bring for black people.
See, this goes to the heart of what the person who kicked this off yesterday, because we ended up staying on the phone 30 extra minutes. Because I think we've got Reverend Dr. Yeri on too, and Robert Patillo. 30 extra minutes, and Lena Taylor was all over it. See what you started, Nina Turner, the host of Unbossed on TYT. It started a week ago, everybody. It's live weekdays, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 1 p.m. Pacific Time. You want to watch it. That's on the Young Turks Network, yes?
Yes. They can go to YouTube /Unbossed TYT and subscribe. Would really appreciate that.
Oh, well, that's what I'm going to do.
I would say, SJ,
I think that call was emblematic of what you were talking about, kind of.
Yeah, but and I understand where Otis is coming from. Sometimes politicians become the symbol of larger issues. So I want to break this down in that not fixating on those two candidates, although ultimately that's what it comes down to. We have a two-party system, and the two-party system, quite honestly, is failing Black people and failing working class people across the identity. But let me just rest with Black folks just for a minute, if I may. And I understand where Brother Otis is coming from, because we need material conditions to change. Janet Jackson's song comes to mind, "What Have You Done For Me Lately?" And that's for both. So I get it. I think that the Democratic Party has done a total disservice to the Black community by separating Black men from Black women when it comes to the power of our vote. That we cannot allow ourselves to pick up the bad habits of other folks. Maybe other folks can be separated in that way, but because of our history in this country, we have not matured to the point that we can be separate in our fight for true liberation, whether it's in Georgia or Ohio or in Illinois or Wisconsin or wherever it is in these United States of America. We cannot afford to be separated. And so what the Democratic Party has done by saying that Black women are the backbone of the party, but meanwhile, writ large, nothing has really changed for the Black community. So the Brookings Institute did a, research this whole Black-white wealth gap, and I'm just putting this example. We don't lay this on the shoulders of just Stacey Abrams or any individual elected official, but let's just talk about the Democratic Party itself. The racial wealth gap between Blacks and white, $171,000 is the average net worth of a typical white family. That is 10 times the net worth of a Black family, holding at $17,150. Now, I'm just using that as an example. If we look at health disparities, if we look at education, if we look at all the major markers that we point to in terms of quality of life, Black folks are always at the bottom of that. And so to allow any party, be it Democrat or Republican, but since we vote overwhelmingly for the Democratic Party, to separate us and make Black men feel that somehow they're less or they're not pulling their weight. In Georgia, it's my understanding that the Honorable Stacey Abrams has about 88% of the Black vote. So even if she's getting 95%, 92% of the Black women's vote, Black men and women are still statistically in the same ballpark. But I'm not making this about her. I'm making this about a party that takes advantage of Black people time and time again and always expects Black people to come in and save it. But meanwhile, we the side piece. We get caught. We ain't even the mistress. We below the mistress. We the side piece. We get called every now and then just when the crisis happens. And then other than that, we absolutely get nothing holistic to the advancement of our people. We are bigger than voting. We are bigger than criminal justice reform. Yes, do those things matter to us because they impact us in a deeper way? You daggone right they do. But let's speak to the economics of the situation. That a Black child, even a Black child that is born solidly middle class, could lose it all because of systems in this country that still sees and treats Black people via policy as somehow we are less than. And so we as a people got to have a family meeting. We got to have this family meeting about how we are not going to continue to let the party that we vote for overwhelmingly continue to take us for granted holistically. Now, some people running for office get caught up in that. So there's going to come a time. Now, we got to fight neo-fascism. So I agree with my sister. Brian Kemp ain't the one. I get it. I got that. But there is going to come a point where we're going to have to stop asking Black folks to save the Democratic Party and also to continue to vote for the lesser of the two evils. I don't mean that in the sense of the Georgia race. I'm talking about all of the races overall. That is an example. We have that in Ohio. The lesser of the two evils in terms of our Senate race. That's what it's coming down to. And Black people are getting tired of it. And Black men are tired of being disrespected by this Democratic Party. What I am saying to my sisters, yes, should we be lifted and elevated? Absolutely, we should be. But should we allow a party or any other force or institution or entity or force on this earth to separate us from our Black men and our liberation struggle? Absolutely not. We together on this.
Lena?
We can't let them do it. And they've been playing us for far too long.
Lena, your thoughts?
Nina has definitely, hit it out the park as usual. I mean, in the end, what percentage, I think of after the Hillary Clinton race in particular, that they said, oh, Hillary lost because Black people didn't come out. well, actually, we came out. It was that white women didn't vote for Hillary. And so my question would be, instead of talking about some small percentage, because you won't have 100%, I don't know many, if any, races that most candidates have had 100% of the vote. So the fact that Black people are still a huge percentage, 80-something% of the votes that Stacey is getting, my question is, what percentage of white women are not voting for her and voting for Kim?
Wait. Let me give you this. 52% of white women voted for Donald Trump. Okay? 95% of Black women voted for Beto O'Rourke. 97% of Black women voted for Stacey Abrams. 82% voted for Andrew Gillum in Florida. But 76% of white women voted for Brian Kemp. 59% of women voted for Cruz over O'Rourke. 51% voted for DeSantis over Gillum. Lena?
That sounds like the majority.
Oh, okay.
Of white women choosing not to vote. But that's not the narrative that you hear. That divisive narrative that you hear about Black men and pitting Black men and Black women, the truth of the matter is the majority still are the backbone of votes for Democrats. Democrats cannot win in our state without Black votes. And we are not a people that are monolithic. We are not just one way, and nor do we have to be. I actually take some offense to the concept that we have to all just be lock, stock, and barrel in one particular way, and we don't get to ask no questions. We don't get to hold people accountable. And people are sick and tired of it. There are some people saying, honestly, I'm just being honest here. They are saying they're not voting in some races because they feel like we need to see the consequences. We being Democrats, that we need to see the consequences of treating people a certain way. All I can say is people have a right to make their own choices. Of course, I try to encourage people all the time to exercise their right to vote. But we have to be conscious that people get to a place where they get sick and tired of being sick and tired, and can choose to stay home. We have seen that people will not be inspired and stay home. So all of those pieces are so. But when you're looking at what happens in a majority concept, it's not like 52% of Black men are not voting for Stacey. So why it would be pitted in that way, I just think is a narrative that always is to poo-poo on Black people.
Well, you know what? I know that Nina is going to have to leave us because she's got to engage in show prep for Unbossed, everybody, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Go to YouTube and subscribe. And subscribe to the Young Turks. They need our support. They support us, so we need to support them. We have to, free domain free. You got to pay for it, everybody. You don't have to pay for this show, but it would be helpful if you do that. So everybody go to Unbossed, TYT. That's the Young Turks, everybody. And she has a show. It's live, and it is fantastic, everybody. It's fantastic. Please like and subscribe and share. I've got 3 minutes left for you. Nina, you can stay as long as you wish, but I know that you got a live show today. So go for it, girlie.
Yeah, thanks, SJ. No, I do have to go. I just want to amen what my sister, Lena, said, the Honorable Lena Taylor. See, people do have a right to vote. And so we got to get out of trying to convince people to vote one way or the other. Then that's what our job is. If you're Democrat, you want to get people to vote for Democrats. You're Republican, you want to get people to vote for Republicans. I got that part. However, sometimes we take on this attitude that folks got to vote that way, and they don't have to. And what I am tired of is people dictating that all Black people, well, we do though. We are homogeneous in that because overwhelming majority of our vote does go to the Democratic Party. It is what gave the current president, the courage to say to Charlamagne the God on his show that if you can't decide whether you're going to vote for me or for Trump, you ain't Black. See, that is the mentality of neoliberal white folks because they think they own our vote. So even though we are in a situation right now in this country today, and I get it, it breaks me, that we are fighting between neoliberalism and neo-fascism, and neo-fascism is dangerous. It is deadly in the immediate term. But I guarantee you that neoliberalism is dangerous in the long term. It is why the John Lewis Voting Rights Act has not passed. It is why the George Floyd Policing Act has not passed. It is why people like Bezos and others get a chance to take advantage of workers who are trying to unionize, the Starbucks and all of that, and threatening these folks because the federal government won't use the big stick that it has. It is the reason why marijuana has not been taken off Schedule 1 right now. Yeah, the president did a little something, and that's good, but it's still most of the things that the jailing that happens is on the state and the local level, and we got to get down to that. And we continue to put all our eggs on the federal level when most of the work gets done on the state and local levels of government. It is why we don't have a windfall wealth tax on these folks. It is why oil and gas is having a field day with our earth and with our pocketbooks. And we got a president that's begging these CEOs not to price gouge instead of letting them know who he is and that there will be a consequence and repercussion for continuing to gouge people in this country at their lowest moments during a pandemic. So all people like me are saying, and I think my sister Lena is with me too, like 99.9% on this, is that as we fight neo-fascism, and we must do that, the Black community in particular, but not exclusively, because I believe all working people need to round up together based on what we have in common. If you say to the Democratic Party, at some point, we're going to let the chips fall where they may, because we understand what's happening on the other side. But what I don't understand is that why you don't use your power. Why didn't you increase the federal minimum wage? Why didn't you do it? Why didn't you codify Roe v. Wade? Why didn't you do it? And speaking of Roe, that is a very important thing, but it's not the only thing. We need to talk about economics. That is what folks want to hear. Now, abortion is tied to economics, so let's talk about it through that lens. But to pretend like that is the only issue that's going to motivate and galvanize people to go to the polls, that is wrong. It is not the only issue. It is about pocketbook economics. What is happening for me and mine? Why can't I afford the eggs and the butter and the milk? Why is Big Mama and Big Papa suffering? The kids and their kids? And what about the hoods where people are misunderstood? The rural hoods, the urban hoods, and the suburban hoods. That is what Black folks want to know about, and that's what working class people want to know about. So sometimes when you run for office, you kind of get caught up in the global nature of the fight. But Black folks deserve so much more than what they're getting from the Democratic Party. Absolutely. And although I am one, I do not believe that Black people really in America have any power. And that's true.
Well, we got a party. They're called Our Issues. And Our Issues make America, America. I love you, Nina Turner. State Senator Nina Turner, TYT Unbossed. Everybody go on over there, like and subscribe and share. It's on at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. Today it's live. You don't want to miss it. 1 p.m. Central Pacific Time for our brothers and sisters on the West Coast. Love you. Call us 773-763. We haven't excluded you, Reverend Dr. Uri and Attorney Patillo. We're going to let the guys talk on the other side in just a minute. Okay, you all were on Facebook Live. Is Nina still there?
Thank you. I'm here. I'm just going to listen. I want to hear what some of my sisters and brothers got to say before I jump off. So I'm in listening mode. But yeah, I'm still here.
Oh, yeah.
I want to hear the brilliance of my other folks that are here today, which I'm honored to be on with them.
I'm trying to go online and find TNT's new
TYT. What are you thinking? You thinking of the movies?
Go to Unboss /
TYT.
Go to YouTube / Unboss TYT, and it's free to subscribe. So it's YouTube / Unboss TYT. And I can send you the link right now.
We'll send it right now again.
Thank you. That's even better.
Okay. Oh, everybody keep going. CK talk, y'all talk. Oh, wait a minute.
I'd love to hear what do you guys think about the whole issue around why Black men, that little small margin is talked about versus that huge margin that exists for white women?
I think that's a hypocrisy that people don't like to underscore. So the focus is always on what Black men are or aren't doing, or Black women are or aren't doing and dominating. But the hypocrisy is there's no focus on what white women are or aren't doing. But for the only thing that I'm looking at in terms of Stacey Abrams' race, what she has done is identify a pocket of, and it's not just Black men, but groups that she wants to capture that maybe she didn't capture as persuasively the last time. That's how this whole discussion has come up. And so she took the initiative, and actually basically her advisor told her, look, you have to do a better job. You have to do more in terms of your appeal to Black men. You have to address these issues. And that's what she's done. And so she came out maybe 2 months ago or so and said, look, I know that this is why I have to work, but if Black men did support me across the board more than they did before, that's not ignoring the strong margin that she did before, but she's asking for a stronger margin, then I would win. And then she proceeded to, and if she had it in her arsenal to address those issues. But the whole voting pattern of white women that we've talked about, resoundingly in bloc to support conservative candidates, that's real. And that is something that I think we do know. It's just that in this race in Georgia, and it also applies to Senator Raphael Warnock. In Georgia, we're focused on making sure we galvanize all of the Black votes, because it is clear that Brian Kemp cannot be, should not be the alternative for any Black, brown, whatever communities. And it's not simply because his family brought slavery into Georgia. It's not just because of that. It's because of all that he stands for today. He is not good for
60 seconds, everyone.
Okay. Hold on.
He's just not. So,
and what we're going to do is ask these men to respond, because Robert Patillo, of course, he's Southeastern Regional Director for Rainbow Push. He spoke to this issue several years ago. And a lot of people were quite critical of him, but there's a lot of healing that has to occur. But first of all, we got to have this discussion, because I believe black women are up above Black men, and I think that is a problem, and it is engendering resentment, and it's problematic. There should be no daylight between us when we walk in a room.
Like, we have to take control of that.
But I'm saying we have to do that, CK. We've got to take control of that. We have to let people know, do not play with me with my man. And our men need to also say, don't play with me with my woman.
Amen.
Don't do it.
Absolutely.
We have to do that. Stand by.
Change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey everybody, if you really, really want to know what's up, you need to come to the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel, because we have great conversations during the break. I know that's why you all really do not like it when I'm not up on YouTube, because you all get a chance to hear us really kind of relax. And we'll not relax, you just hear the conversation continue to go. Everybody call us at 773-763-9278. What about this schism that the media continue to amplify about Black men and Black women? They don't vote alike. Oh, no. What they're not telling you is that white women are voting for Brian Kemp. White women are voting for Ted Cruz. White women are voting for voting for Donald Trump. White people are voting for Donald Trump. Don't even try it. 2/3 of Donald Trump's voters made $50,000 a year or more. Hillary Clinton and these Democrats, these folks get, and Joe Biden get the Rainbow Coalition. That's what they get. People of color and poor white folks. Yeah. So let's get real. Let's get real. And you know what? Just for my portion, we said this during the break, CK, Attorney CK Hoffler and State Senator Nina Turner. Everybody go to YouTube, Unbossed, YouTube/Unbossed TYT, so that you can subscribe to her show, which is at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today. And Attorney Lena Taylor and Reverend Dr. Todd Yeary. And I think Aaron Connolly is going to call in. Look.
She's here.
Whenever we go anywhere, particularly as Black people, because we have been under siege for more than 400 years, you should not have any separation between Black women and Black men, period. White women don't have it with them and their man. I don't care how much they fight. I've seen my parents be married 61 years. And it has not been easy, but what marriage is. But it's 61 years later, they have endured. And one thing my parents do not play is daylight between Jesse and Jackie, which is why they have endured. I don't care how much my brothers and I and my sister and I fight. There is no daylight between us. We don't play that. So when people come up to me and say, we love the Jacksons, yeah, because we don't play that. We might fuss and fight, and some of us might step out of line, but we get them straight. We don't play that because we're a family. And that's the only way we've survived. When you see me, you see Jesse, Johnny, Yusuf, and Jackie. You sure do. And you see my mom and daddy. I'm standing on their shoulders, and I stand with them in solidarity, which is why we've survived, which is the only way that we're all going to survive, which is the way that all people are going to survive against the oligarchy who are taking all of our money and who are wrecking the earth. We have to come together. Let's stop playing. Now, 773-763-9278. Let us respond to old crazy Nina Turner. Okay, CK, before we go to Robert Patillo and Aaron Connolly, and Robert Patillo, Reverend Dr. Yuri, and Aaron Connolly, who's joining us. I was late, Aaron. I didn't see your text. Thank you so much for calling in. CK, you, and then you, Robert Patillo, and you. We're going to keep on going because I want to hear what the men have to say about this. Quite frankly, CK.
Yeah, and I do want to hear what the men have to say about this too, especially these men who we value so much and whose voices we need to hear on this issue. Look, I think that we have to address this issue in family. Just like you said, Santita, I would take it a step further. If you allow people to define you, to define your issues, and to define how you're going to proceed in elections, then you're going to end up with a schism, a further division of family. And this is not a new concept. This is just something that's taking on a different form when it comes to now all of a sudden, midterm elections, the presidential elections, Senate runoff elections. So we have to take control. Since when are we allowing people to define what we're doing in our community? I think it is important to note that there are strong numbers of Black men who do support Stacey Abrams. I'm just using that race because I'm in Georgia. Strong numbers of Black men who support Stacey Abrams. Strong numbers of Black women who support Raphael Warnock. There's no division there. What Stacey's saying is, I want more Black men to support me. Why wouldn't she say that? That's her demographic. That's not divisive. That's more inclusive. We don't need to allow people to divide us on that issue. Nobody else sits there and allows that to be divisive. So we don't need to either. And that's my beat. Not allowing people to define our issues, taking control in our community, and supporting candidates who support our interests. Brian Kemp, under no scenario, no matter how you slice it, Brian Kemp is not the solution for Black and brown people in Georgia, for progressives, for young people, and I can go down the list. He's not the solution, and it's not just because his family brought slavery to Georgia. That's something that makes your stomach turn, but it's because of what he's doing today. The policies, all the voter suppression, all of his positions on a lot of critical issues, policing, voting, economics as it relates to our community, he gets a resounding 0 and minus point. That's the bottom line for me in Georgia.
Well, I think part of the problem is his positioning, and she's a brilliant woman. Oh, I've watched this debate now 3 times between Stacey Abrams, the independent candidate, and Kemp. Don't make Black men your problem. And that's because that's where you got to be careful about what you say and how you say, because they're not your problem. Because it could be flipped. And I think then that is what has happened. Black men, I need you to vote for me. That's a private conversation I think that you have. When the door closes and that's just my thing, because it can be flipped as it has been flipped. But very quickly, CK, so I can get to, because we can continue to carry the conversation on. I think it's important to do.
But that wasn't me who said I don't know. That was me.
Oh, okay. Okay. Who said I don't know before I get to Robert Patillo?
That was Senator Taylor saying I agree with what CK said, which is it's not wrong to ask, but if you don't
understand the conversation. Maybe she doesn't mean it divisively. Maybe she's saying, look, I got a small margin and I even need the few that ain't with me to be with me. Maybe that's what the argument is, but either way it goes, I'm saying, what about the majority, right, of white women who are going out supporting these other Senate candidates? And I think,
76% voted for Brian Kemp. 76% of white women voted for Brian Kemp. 76% white women.
That's a big percentage.
Come on now.
But I want to hear what the men have to say about it.
So have that conversation with them. Call now in. How about that? Call Emily's list in. Oops, yes, I said it. Call them in and say, what's up with your girls? Robert Patillo?
Well, you're absolutely correct. I find it interesting because we saw the same thing happen in 2016 when Hillary lost, and all of a sudden they started blaming black people for not turning out in numbers to vote for Hillary. Then when the numbers came out, no, white women are the ones who put Trump in office. And Democrats, for some reason, thought that the Dobbs decision would be enough to bring those suburban white women back into the Democratic fold. In reality, the Dobbs decision doesn't affect wealthy white women. It affects poor women. It affects women of color. But, when Sarah goes down to Howard or Clark's homecoming and comes back pregnant, they get on an airplane. They fly out to a state that has more liberal laws, California, New York. They have a private doctor, they have a private procedure, they make it a girls' weekend and they come back home. It's not as big of an issue for them. When you have economic advantages, the Dobbs decision doesn't affect you. So that means those women vote on other issues, things such as the price of gas, things such as inflation, things such as immigration and security. This is why Republicans have been hammering this message about crime and chaos in the streets to suburban voters, to scare them into the polls. The Marjorie Taylor Greene, scaring them with demographic changes, saying these people are coming here to steal your society, to change your language, to change your religion, to change your way of life. This is the reason Tommy Tuberville was making the point that, well, if you allow these, the Democrats want crime because crime is reparations for black people. So they're allowing black people to run wild in the streets in order to repay them. This is why that's what the Republican messaging is, and it's been effective because polling still shows that despite the Dobbs decision, despite what you may see in these marches and protests, these women are wearing their pink hats and their "I'm with her" shirts, and they're going into the polls to vote for Herschel Walker, Brian Kemp, and Donald Trump. And that's just the reality of the situation. When it comes to the schism, quote unquote, between black men and black women, we're talking about 95% of black women voting for a candidate and 88 to 89% of black men voting for a candidate. For any other demographic, that would be beyond super voter territory. But the idea that you have some black men who don't get a fall in line somehow has become a political football to kick back and forth. And I'm going to use the same hypothetical that I've used time and time again, which is if you saw a group of 17 to 24-year-old black men standing on a bus stop or just hanging out in the hood somewhere in Southwest Atlanta or in the South Side of Chicago or Southeast DC, etc., and you were to pull up in your nice campaign bus, what exactly would be the Democratic campaign message to them? Are you going to talk about reproductive health? Are you going to talk about climate change? Are you going to talk about transgender issues? Well, what exactly is the selling point besides saying, well, the Republicans are racist? What is your positive message to them? And how often have you brought those young men in and talked to them about what their political issues would be? Not in a condescending or this is what they should be manner, but a matter of actually sitting down, listening to them. It's almost like, and I think I used this analogy before, where you see the People magazine in the grocery store, and it says, this is a Dave Chappelle joke, 45 ways to make your man happy, written by some lady. And you try to figure out what this man wants, but you're not asking the man what he wants. And that's what we do electorally in the Democratic Party. And right now, we're still seeing it where black men are saying, well, you've had the majority. Where's that vote on voting rights at? That hasn't come up for a vote. Where's the vote on criminal justice reform, the justice and policing law? Where are those minority contracts that we were talking about? Where's that vote on H.R. 40, the reparations study committee legislation that John Conyers and Sheila Jetson Lee have been pushing for the last half century? What exactly is going to happen with R&D money going forward? Is that going to be invested into HBCUs, or is it still going to go to Caltech and Stanford, et cetera? When it comes to aerospace, well, how are we going to get our fair share of governmental contracts? We just saw Elon Musk get another $14 billion contract with NASA. How can we break into this? And what's going to be the pipeline program that's going to be created in order to do so? When it comes to these EIDL loans that were given out during the pandemic, we saw PPP loans that wealthy people were able to get a hold of being completely forgiven, but EIDL loans that many lower income business owners took out, those things have not been forgiven, and those are going into repayment coming up in the next month or so. So there's legitimate questions that need to be answered, but instead of answering those questions, the narrative has simply been, well, what's wrong with black men? And why Killer Mike out here talking? And why they talking crazy out here? And that you create a side conversation at the worst possible time in the middle of September, because we need to be consolidating and getting out the vote. Instead, we're having these esoteric conversations that are playing into the black man versus black woman culture war and becomes fodder for gossip blogs. And that's not what you need during election season.
No, we don't need that right now. Reverend Dr. Yeary.
Well, good morning to you again, Santita, to Mary and Martha, Madam Chair, Sister Aaron, and to my brother from another mother, Robert Patillo. I want to go back a bit to a framing that came out in the Kerner Commission report released on the heels of Dr. King's assassination in 1968, but actually commissioned in 1967 in the backdrop of the Great Society legislation that pivoted the focus to the Democratic Party. 1964, you get the Civil Rights Act. 1965, you get the Voting Rights Act. You get Medicare, you get Medicaid, you get fair housing in 1968. In the midst of all of that, there was still unrest in many of the urban areas. And so President Johnson was wondering what was going on. Why was there no sense of appeasement for Black interests? And out of that flow, the report defined Black power, because there had been a lot of conversation around rhetoric, but the commission actually, I think, gave us a definition of substance. And the definition in the report is Black power is the ability to swing the outcome of an election. There was a recognition by the commission that this new voting bloc, while it may not be controlling, it's determinative of the framing of the policies that will move forward. And so how do you then neutralize this determinative bloc, but by causing this kind of internal friction driven by wedges through the ignoring or the misframing of what's going on in terms of the political power of Black men and Black women? So we leave this perception and framing that's disjointed. And so I would offer that maybe what we need is a political platform of Django. Yeah, I said it. And we have to push back on the institutionalization of plantation economics and the oppression of Black people that requires infiltration and deconstruction from the inside, while also making sure we don't become subsumed. What do I mean by that? If we're going to liberate ourselves from the new plantation economy, which doesn't come with shackles, physical shackles, but economic ones, we have to be willing to recognize that you may not be able to save everybody, but you're going to save most people, and be focused, as has been argued, on what are the numbers we do have, instead of allowing the narrative to always be a criticism of what we don't have. And if we don't get serious about what this actually looks like, the updated version of the next plantation economy, which is being constructed right now at the expense of not only people of color and the shifting of political priorities to kind of assuage and appease brown communities, immigrant communities, Hispanic communities, but also to keep poor whites at bay. If we don't get back to recognizing that the plantation economics of the 19th century and now the 21st century goes against the interests of the masses writ large, then we're going to continue to get caught up in these conversations about who's included, who's being blamed, who's being excluded. This is an opportunity to come up with a liberation plan that speaks to not which party are we going to be presumably voting for, but which party is going to meet the demand of the moment that says we have a legitimate agenda that must be addressed. Otherwise, Django's coming.
Well, you know, Aaron, I hate to do this to you, but I mean, we have like a few minutes left, but everyone stay here on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. I mean, I know everyone is running to work this morning, but I think this is such an important conversation. The corporate media, and really, I've heard no conversation even from now and from Emily's list. The overwhelming majority of white women vote for Trump, vote for Brian Kemp, vote for Ted Cruz. They vote for these candidates when you have the Beto O'Rourke's out here, the Stacey Abrams, the Raphael Warnocks. They're not voting for them. They're not voting. No. They're voting for the establishment. What is up, Aaron? Not that you can speak for all white women, but you have a bird's eye view of white folks that I ain't got because I'm not white.
Well, thanks, Santita. I definitely don't want to speak for that whole group, but I think
because understanding that these are not your politics, right?
Yeah,
I understand that, but it's just like Frank Watkins, who we just memorialized, really one of the great unsung heroes and architects of the modern civil rights movement, and therefore of the new America, the emerging America. My father's communication director emeritus, his longest serving staff member, who was a white man, everybody, a white man who he met before he joined our staff in 1969, and he never left. Never. So there's some white people who are about it, and there's some white people who are enslavers, and there's some black folks who don't mind being enslaved and who want some slaves themselves. So let's just cut all that out. 3 minutes belong to you, Aaron.
And I think Dr. Frank Watkins would have an important history lesson, no doubt, for us about the long-standing tradition of white women abandoning their so-called allies and voting for their self-interest based on a variety of different situations, a lot that we've been able to dig into on here. But what we do know is in the previous election, we saw split tickets. We saw exactly what you're talking about, mostly from white women who, in one portion of their ballot, vote for Democrats, even progressive sometimes, and then either do not vote or vote the other side of the ticket in another portion of the ballot. And where we're going to need to see some continuity and consistency with regard to that progressive voting is down the whole ballot. As we know, we have battles in state Supreme Court that will decide the future of women's health care and voting rights in many states, including Illinois. Blue states where we take for granted some of those down ballot races. Finish your ballot is my plea to everybody. Those down ballot races make a difference. And if you're voting blue at the top, consider voting blue all the way down, because those judge races, those local elections make a difference in how our local government operates, and we see the impact in our in our nation in some of these local races, and we have to make sure that we're at least participating in the whole process.
And you're absolutely right. But to interrupt, let me just say that my question is, why are white women voting this way? White women, we talk about black women needing to work an extra 263 days in order to make what a white man makes in 365 days. Indigenous women, Hispanic women have to work almost a year, 11 months. White women have to work more than 365 days in order to earn what their white male counterparts make. What is going on with white women where they continue to vote against their own interests? What is up with that?
Well, it's a variety of reasons, right? I think it's this natural inclination for white women to see themselves outside of an oppressed class in many ways. It gives them, this sort of coverage in different ways. They also,
but they slip in and out of that. Carolyn Bryant, who accused Emmett Till of whistling at her, said, "I'm more than a dog whistle." You can't have it both ways, right?
Correct. But sometimes we see that happen throughout history and in today's landscape as well. So I think it's taking real responsibility of which way women would like to have it. And I think taking full responsibility for what that vote represents, right? This isn't, we see 60 years ago, we're looking at Emmett Till, the movie, and we're talking about when the Anti-Lynching Act was passed and how long that took for that to happen, right? This is a slow process of democracy, and we have to understand that our vote is the most consistent tool we have on the battlefield. We have to use it every time, and we have to use the full power of it. We can't just let it go every 4 years. We have to show up every 2 and in between.
Well, stay right there, everybody. I want to get some closing thoughts from you, CK, from you, Attorney C.K. Hoffler, Senator Lena Taylor, Reverend Dr. Todd Urey, Robert Patillo, and you, Aaron, because I think this is a conversation that we need to have. Don't you all think? I think we do. We really do. We need to know, and we need to bust up these myths about who's voting for whom. Oh, that needs to stop. And we also have some very real lessons we need to learn about survival. Not only must Black men and Black women come and stay together, and all of these couplings, but guess what? All people need to stay together. We need to be in solidarity with each other. That's the only way we're going to win. I'm only going to win if you win. If I lose, you might think you're winning, but you're not. COVID showed us that if I got a little infection, you can get the bug too. And in fact, in all likelihood, you will. We breathe the same air, eat the same food. We are one, everybody. We're one. To think about that. There should be no daylight between all of us working people and the oligarchy. And the oligarchy needs us so that they can become wealthy. We all need each other. But we can't take advantage of each other. And we cannot thwart each other's progress. It is our obligation to ensure that every human being lives up to their fullest potential. That's what we should all be doing. That's the business. So, I love everybody. Can't wait to be with you tomorrow on the Santita Jackson Show. Stay right here on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel so we can continue this wonderful conversation. Back tomorrow. Okay, look, y'all, does you all have something to say? Because I'm telling you, when I pulled up these numbers about who was voting for whom, I said, wow, you guys. No one.
Okay, I'm still here listening to my brilliant colleagues. I want to say maybe white women don't think they vote against their own self-interest. Have you ever thought about that?
Yes.
That right there.
Becky might not believe it. They might not. It's hard to say it, but hell, they might not believe they voting against. They voting for their interests.
They are.
They are. These are the same women who were so mad when Senator Obama became the presidential nominee that more of them voted for John McCain. Because how dare this Black man become the nominee? This is serious. I believe most of these white women believe they voting in their best interest.
They are.
How dare we give them a pass? That's real.
Well, I mean, because race trumps all, right? Oh, you were saying, what's the conversation?
Say that again.
I said, because race trumps all. You have caste and you have class. We are in the Black and brown caste. And caste trumps everything.
Quit saying that too. Because you say Black and brown caste. I always say people of color, but I promise you, when the rubber meets the road, my Latino brothers and sisters, they be voting like the white women do.
No. Then let me complete my thought. Because the only people in America who cannot pass into whiteness are Black people. Black people are locked into a caste. You can be white, Hispanic. You can't be black, white person unless it's an attitude. So I'm with that. I got you. But a caste is a real thing. Caste is real. Yeah. Caste is real. It's just we're the only ones who are stuck in a caste. Black folks are.
Listen.
And I'm not mad at
the UN with China. And the UN, when China spoke and said the human rights issues with Black Lives Matter for America, I said, well, people may not like it, but it sure is true to speak to those issues. So the caste issue, the fact that we are definitely, always going to be Black. Unless you, like you said, it's in the mindset. Clarence Thomas ain't no Thurgood Marshall. So there is no question that I think that, again, that Nina Turner has hit it out the park and said, yeah, maybe they are really just voting their interest.
Well, I mean, if it is in their interest to preserve.
That's not a maybe.
Okay, it's not amazing?
Yeah, it's not a maybe.
Oh, please. Of course not.
Remember that what undergirds our politics is economic self-interest. The economic self-interest of white women is largely tied to the entrenchment of the power of white men. If we look at who gets what in what proportion, ranked from top to bottom, white men are first, right? Then you get white women. You might get black men, and you definitely get black women last, right? At the end of the day, this is how do I make sure that I don't lose my place of economic priority in this moment? And if it looks like in this moral ideal called inclusion, I somehow must sacrifice my place on the monopoly board, then guess what? Inclusion ain't happening. And if it happens, it's happening over my dead body, hence January the 6th. The other part is we got to remember Harriet Tubman didn't liberate everybody she tried to get off the plantation. My obligation ain't to save all black people. It's to save as many as I can. So to come back and hold me accountable because we don't have a monolithic political viewpoint, like somehow or other all black people got to run in lockstep, you didn't get a plantation economy simply because you had all white folks in agreement. You had some black apologists too. So at the end of the day, the question becomes, how are we going to do the greatest good for the greatest number in this moment, recognizing that if we don't leverage what's available to us in this moment, we may not get another moment because the regression is going to be real. And so I think part of this is, look, in over 200, almost 250 years of this country, the economic interests and realities have not changed. The truth of the matter is you got a few more people just to kind of keep folks appeased. But if you look at where the concentration of wealth is, the control of assets, when you look at all of that, that is still part of the original design that was set up when they had the Constitutional Convention. So for us to think that somehow or another now we went from playing Monopoly to playing checkers, this ain't a friendly game. This is called survival. And if we're not going to do what's necessary to help our people survive and thrive so that the next generation doesn't inherit the same pile of you-know-what that keeps getting passed down generation to generation, and what we've done is we've taken the bait of getting into this unhelpful, unuseful debate about why can't you get all black people to go along? You can't get all white people to go along. You can't get all of anybody to go along. At the end of the day, how do you create a critical mass of political interest that can be leveraged at a time to advance the economic outcomes that changes the dynamic of how we engage across communities? That's the name of this game. It's Monopoly. It ain't checkers. I'm not here to be your friend. I ain't here to, at the end of the day, well, why don't we all just get, that ain't what this game is. This game is about how we going to get folks off the plantation, liberated, recognizing that once you get folks going, Harriet carried a shotgun because she said, once you start down this road, there ain't no turning back. That's the reality.
And she shot the people that wasn't with the program. Reverend and Priest is stopping this morning, baby.
That's right. Because
for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
So go ahead.
No.
For some reason we
white women in this country. We make it as if there's, these sacred princesses sitting on the top of the tower, and oh no, it's their horrible husbands who make them vote for Republicans. We heard this a lot in 2016, that it was white women voting along with their husbands on some of these racist and regressive policies. No, they have the full agency and the full ability to be just as racist as any white man. They understand that when you saw the McCloskey standing in front of their house with their guns pointing at protesters, it wasn't just the husband; it was the husband and wife. They're in it. They're in it together on many of these issues. So. We have an outsized influence of white women in American politics. We heard just yesterday Joe Biden saying that the first thing he would do if he had a Democratic majority after the midterms is codify Roe as a national issue, which the white women's groups are pushing very hard on. But I would like to see. I think many black people like to see that same energy for voting rights, for criminal justice reform, for issues that affect the African American community. If we're giving you 85-90% of the vote every single election, and this other group is giving you 50, 60 at most percent of the vote each election, how is it we have to wait until you handle their issues first and second and third and fourth and fifth, and oops, we ran out of time, maybe next election cycle? And I think that's the frustration that many people have, that African Americans, particularly African American men, bear an outsized brunt of the criticism when things don't go their way. But then there's an outsized attention given to issues for other groups when things do go their way.
What else?
Santita, we talked about just real quick, Santita, because Aaron has spoken to this before. Kirsten Sinema is the real life example of what we often see with white women's ambivalence, particularly when they get in seats of power. That they present one way to get there, but once they're inside, their loyalty is to protect the entrenchment of the status quo, because that's how you maintain the economic self-interest.
Look, I'm hearing you. And someone sent me a note. That maybe white women don't think they're voting against their interests. They're not. Because white supremacy is in their interest. That is why you have Carolyn Bryant, and that's why you have the whole establishment protecting her 70 years after the killing after the assassination of Emmett Till. The UNC Chapel Hill they are holding her confession, which is what they call her memoir. It's her confession. I went in the truck. I helped identify him. I told my husband, no, not him. No, that's the boy who did that to me. And no, it didn't quite happen that way, but he died, and what can I do? UNC Chapel Hill is holding her papers. They didn't leak those. Look magazine paid her husband and his counterpart. And she saw that she sees even now it is in her interest to preserve them and to preserve this. And that kind of mindset and behavior needs to be called out. Instead of calling out black men and saying black men are the problem, even when you do it and say, hey, black men, if you vote for me, I can win. I hear you, but that's a conversation I think you need to have privately. That's just my opinion. Just say, or you put it another way, if I can get more black men, more black women, there's just a way to put it so the weight doesn't fall on them. And that is accounting for misogyny and sexism that does exist in the male community, including the black male community. All that's real. All of it. That's real, because as women who are in positions of authority, the crap that we can deal with from black, white, brown, yellow, and red men. That's real. Lena, Nina, CK, Aaron. That's real for everybody. That's real.
I know that myself.
I know you do.
My run for mayor. Yes, my run for mayor, it was quick for sexism to, pop in. They were trying to, grow up somebody that they could run versus, the concept of seeing a woman, take leadership role. It was an issue, among men. No question about it. for whatever reasons, they are not extremely comfortable with strong, outspoken women. And it seems to be a little even more challenging with the Black woman.
Absolutely.
And so there is no question.
And Black men have that problem too. And that's another conversation for another day. Because that's part of the reason that she is not getting some of her votes. That is real too. But the other piece is she's still getting the lion's share of the Black male vote. And to blame Black men if she does not win, I think is patently unfair when you do not call out white women who overwhelmingly vote for these reactionary politicians with their reactionary positions. 76% of white women vote for Brian Kemp, and that's not a talking point with white women. That's not a conversation I need to have with white women. Y'all need to have that amongst yourselves. You need to explain. Y'all need to have that discussion. Don't bring me in that. They would always ask Bill Cosby back in the day to come when he comes on Larry King's show, when he comes on the Tonight Show, when he'd come on these shows, because people knew he was a man of tremendous opinions, that he was a real race man too, and still is. They say, you know what? We want you to talk about race and racism. He said, why? He said, I'll do it when you talk to Bob Newhart and Bob Hope about it. Because I'm not doing this, you're doing it. When you bring up Danny Kaye, when he comes on your show, bring him on, because he's living in the same America I'm living in. In fact, I live in Beverly Hills. They're all my neighbors. Talk to them. Well, they're stopping my brother Russell as he's driving through the neighborhood because he works for me and is coming to my house. We continue to aim at the wrong targets. And the targets we aim at are each other. And I am tired of it. Tired of it. And then you let everybody else off scot-free. Are you for real? Am I alone? Is anyone still there?
In this moment, I want to go back to That's it. Go ahead, Ray. Madam Chair's point earlier about trying to focus on the things we can control. The messaging ain't going to change, right? It's not like somehow or other this is a shocking moment that we're being criticized for the condition that we find ourselves in. It's kind of like blame the victim. That's not a new tactic. So what we have to do is recognize in the midst of this, how do we galvanize and organize around our self-interest to make sure that we maximally participate in this process, as opposed to leaving the rule of the majority really being the rule of the majority of the minority who choose to participate? In this moment where typically we see a dip in voter participation, voter engagement, even though it's looking better than the 2018 midterm, the truth of the matter is we still have an opportunity. We got to stay focused on what is ultimately at stake. And then once we get that settled, we can go back and argue about the nuances. But right now, it's game time. If this thing goes bad between now and November the 8th, imagine what happens with the political agenda when you have a Democratic president if you lose control of one or both of the chambers of the legislative body when it comes to moving how we address this regression around public interest in public policy. Right now is the time to figure out, look, go lift your brother, go lift your sister, go say, look, we got to be in this moment. We got to be part of the solution. It ain't perfect, but the alternative is much worse.
Hold on,
then. It is still Stay an right ongoing there. Work in process.
So then, because we've been saying all of this. So what do you say to Otis, who called in and who could not be moved just more than an hour ago, who said, hey, Stacey ain't talking to me? I'm like, what are you just refusing to listen to her? And then
no.
Is Brian Kemp talking to him? Is Brian Kemp talking to him? That's the question I'd like him to answer.
He didn't answer it. And he wasn't even inclined to, CK.
And that's what CK said. That's what CK said to him at that time. And that, I think, is the question that always has to be asked. You know, they will ask stuff of Black candidates, or they will, try to nail us to the wall, so to say. But, ask other candidates that same thing. They're asking, or saying, what is or isn't, about Mandela Barnes here, right? Mm-hmm. And in the end, Ron Johnson has been in for 12 years. Ask me, what has he done that's been helpful? Ask me, did you agree with his position on Social Security? Ask if you agree with his position on Juneteenth becoming a holiday. Ask some questions about where this man has stood. And if you ask those questions, I think then you'll just have to shut up about the other stuff he's saying.
Well, he's going to find something else. Some folks love.
You ask what do you say to Otis? You may not get Otis, but you still got Junior, Johnny.
I got it.
Right. I think part of this is recognizing that liberation is an open invitation to everybody, but it's not a mandate for everybody to engage.
Well, it's like becoming Christian, right?
Numbers where
it's like going to Christ.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, and even some folks that come to Christ going to hell. I mean, what I can't control that. At the end of the day, my job is to create a framework of connectedness that allows folks to exercise their agency as they explore the fulfillment of their God-given potential. This is a potential moment if we take advantage of it. Otherwise, it becomes an extension of our working through our woe. Because, look, this system ain't designed to take care of our needs because it's the right thing to do. We know the adage, power concedes nothing without a demand. This is the moment to make our demands clear. And if we don't make them clear, Madam Chair's down there in Georgia, look, they fighting like Dickens trying to make sure we will not go back. Georgia's flag used to have the Confederate banner on it till they took it off. Well, just because they took off the symbol does not mean they changed the mindset. The mindset is still real. And we saw it on January 6th. And January 6th was just a test case. And that ain't even a threat. The real mutiny is not what you see going on outside the Capitol, outside the legislative body. It's the mutiny that's going on inside the hearing rooms on the floor when these laws are being debated, passed, drawn up against the economic interest, budgets being passed, moving money around to fund certain interests to the exclusion of others. That's the hustle. And if we don't get serious about these rules being that way, where you've got a Nina and a Lena, that's why I call them Mary and Martha, because I get the first name and the last name confused. I just know sister. I got both of y'all. At the end of the day, if we don't get serious about making sure they got backup when they go inside enemy lines, fighting over nasty legislation that they will put out there and then come back and say, well, we couldn't do anything about it because we don't have the numbers. We've seen it in Georgia. You're going to see litigation come out of this because there are going to be fights about voter outcomes because they've already stacked the deck in state law to be able to put some of these backwards legislatures in charge of what's going to happen in the local voting scene. So the reality is look, I want Otis to come, but Otis, Harriet said, we going to get free. If you want to get free, come on. If you don't want to get free, bruh, I love you, but I'm out. Real talk.
Oh, I got it. I mean, look, first of all, and I want to talk to Otis, but I want my white sisters, my progressive white sisters, my liberal white sisters, I want y'all to have a conversation with each other. That ain't my conversation. That's y'all's conversation. Aaron, that's a conversation white women have to have with each other. About where do we go from here? Chaos or community? With whom do you identify? It has always been thus. It has always been thus. Because it was white women who, as abolitionists, who stood in the gap with Frederick Douglass, actually and metaphorically, and said, we must free these Black human beings who are enslaved. We can never forget that. But when they felt that they had been, wronged by Black men and by their white men, they turned against us and they have not looked back. And the word has just come that Rishi Sunak is about to become the UK Prime Minister, the first person of color in the job. But he's a real right-wing conservative. So much for that. Phenotypic win, but not a philosophical one. Heaven help you, Great Britain. That having been said, I just think that, we have to have some real conversations about what's really, 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 really real here. What's true and what's not true. We need to punch up the numbers on, 76% of white women voted for Brian Kemp. What's up? I don't want to have this. I mean, I can have a conversation at home over dinner, over have a conversation with Black men about their issues with Stacey and me and everybody else. When I started working for Reverend, one of this person, I was the supervisor because I was head of the department. This guy went to Reverend to tell on me. Now I'm the one with the expertise, but I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, really? And I had to let Reverend know. I said, I am profoundly insulted that this joker would come to you with this foolishness. I know it's rooted in misogyny. And then I had some Black women come to me and say, well, you know what? We've got to help lift our men up. I said, not at my expense. I said, you know what? I am not going to be an N-word out in the streets and at home too. I ain't doing that. So I don't believe in being an N-word anywhere. And I'm not going to be your N. I ain't going to be your N. And my man, I ain't going to be yours either. And I ain't going to be your B either. I ain't going to be none of, hey. I ain't going to be none of that. I'm just keeping it 100 with you. Because I've heard Black men also say that they wish that Stacey would pull herself together. I said, what? Because she's not yellow with curly hair. Is that it? Because she's not slender? Honey, I can go down the street on this. Because all of those things are true. All of them. And I still wish that this had become more of an internal discussion, but you know what? Maybe this is where it needed to be. Lord doesn't make mistakes. I can live with it. Y'all keep talking. As I rant. I rant. I do what CK does. I hold it and then my top pops. CK.
Well, I do, but in my closing thoughts would just be this. I don't think I don't like when we allow people to manipulate the narrative of what's happening in our community. And I think that's what we have to do. But I don't think it's a bad thing that this issue was raised, that Stacey raised the issue, because if it meant 2% more of some demographics supporting her, then it's worth it on the one hand. On the other hand, we can take back control of the narrative, which is what I think is happening, and not allow there to be a further schism between Black men and Black women. Because frankly, that is an internal issue that we have to. This is not a new question and not a new debate, not a new anything. But we have to not make it the narrative when she overwhelmingly has Black men support. So she wants more Black men support. There's nothing wrong with her saying that. It's how the story has taken on its own little sea legs and become something more massive and greater that we prefer not to have aired in the public. That should make people uneasy. But the topic itself, when she's in it to win it, and we need to be, for those who support her, in it to win it, I don't think there's a problem with having that discussion. Now, as for other demographics and how other people vote and all that, that is true. We know that to be true, and that's not going to change, in my impression. But that's a discussion, like you said, that white women need to have amongst themselves, whether you vote your interest or whether you vote some other interest. That's not a discussion. We can raise it. We know it exists. But where I can make a difference is not in that discussion. Where I may be able to make a difference is in the discussion involving my community. And that's the way it should be, because I want to be a part of the narrative of what happens in my community. So Stacey has a shot of winning, and everybody who is supporting her needs to continue to support her and to reach out and to get more people to support her, because that's the only way that she will win. Because let me just be very clear, can't nobody persuade me under any scenario that Brian Kemp is someone who the Black community anywhere, rural, urban, in the state of Georgia, should support. There's literally nothing that he has done. Nothing. Zero. Nada. Nil. Zero. Nothing to support the interests of the Black community when it comes to the economy, when it comes to education, when it comes to policing reform, when it comes to voting rights, when it comes to immigration. I can go through every major category, and there would be nothing. So until Otis and others, and I'm not focused on Otis. And Otis, it's great that Otis called in to have this discussion, but I need to have someone explain to me how Brian Kemp is helping anything, because there is no explanation, and there should not be people voting for him, period, in the discussion, who are in our community, but yet it happens. And it's not just Brian Kemp. So that's why I think the discussion should be, Santita and everyone. But I think it's good we're having this discussion, because maybe we can help to have enlightened discussions in our community and family about this issue, and not let it be explosive while the media manipulates the narrative. And the only way to stop the manipulation of the narrative is for us to take back the narrative. It's just that simple, because it's not in the discussion.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
CK was Medicaid expanded in Georgia after ACA was passed? That's still an issue, right? Kemp is not done.
That's still an issue.
Okay, so that affects poor white women, working class white women too.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the issues where, when we start talking about the economics, the color that matters is green. And those are the questions that we got to ask. And to the point of the economics, Brian Kemp's the governor. When you were talking a minute ago, it took me back to walking through the slave dungeons at Elmira and Cape Coast. And when we got to the governor's quarters had two entrances. One was a rear stairwell that looked over the women's courtyard where the black women captives were kept. And the governor would come out and stand on the balcony, point out one of the black women to be brought to him secretly up the rear stairs after she had been prepared for him to violate her. At the end of the day, we got to remember, it is still that mentality, that mindset about the willingness to abuse the very dignity and personhood of black women while you disempower white women, who then become apologists for that same institution. There ain't too many Aaron Connollys running loose, y'all.
Oh, absolutely.
She ain't got too many sisters out there, So part of this
or
is
Terry
standing in
O'Neill.
solidarity with those who stand. Or Terry O'Neill, right? We got to stand in solidarity with folks who stand in solidarity with us. And at the end of the day, anything that moves beyond the setting of our collective liberation agenda, I don't have time to answer that foolishness. That's just an unnecessary conversation. We trying to get free. Give us free.
Well, you know what? I think the next one of the next conversations that we need to have, Lena, I don't know if Nina's still there, and CK, as women, and I would welcome your participation, Todd, and Roberts. I think women have to come together, as many as we can, and discuss what our common agenda is. That was one of the things that we have to reach out to Terry O'Neill, because that was one of the that was really at the center of her presidency when she was the national president of NOW, intersectionality, how we all have issues that interconnect. Because a very serious conversation needs to be had internally with white women. Anytime all y'all voting for Brian Kemp, all y'all voting for, most of you are voting for Donald Trump. Most of you are voting for Ted Cruz. Most. And you have the right to do that. You have the right to do it. But I want to know why. What is going on here? Because we're miles apart. Yeah.
It's kind of like a mindset of feeling like, we're still on the plantation and we just supposed to do what people tell us to do, and that independence of thought or accountability to those that are elected is not a doable thing. It's not something that should happen. I don't think that it's inappropriate to hold your electeds accountable. As a matter of fact, I think it's your responsibility, it's your duty as a citizen. And voting is the first step. It's not the last step. And so part of the issue is that when we don't come to the table with an agenda, you said that women should come together. As a community, we don't really have an agenda.
Well, you know what? I tell you what, the oligarchy has won. They got an agenda. And they have tied us up in a knot. We have had more mom and pop businesses go out of business because government protected Amazon and big business, and they killed everybody else. and kept us locked away while we had officials from all over the world who were going out to dinner and having a good time. Not just Boris Johnson, that happened in the United States too. And we ought to be sick of it. I don't care what your color is. You ought to be tired of being trampled on by the oligarchs and the monarchs. You ought to be sick of that. And we need to grow up in our understand that we have racialized classism in this country, and we need to get over it. If you as a Black person feel you are inferior to anyone, then you do not believe in God, and shame on you. If you are a white person and you feel you're superior to anyone, then you don't believe in God, and shame on you. No one's inferior, no one's superior. We all need to be able to support one another, have the emotional and spiritual capacity to support one another and help each other to reach our fullest potential. That is your obligation on earth. Grow up. Everybody's got something. If you didn't have something to offer, God wouldn't have you here. You don't have the right to trample on me and my dreams. And I don't have the right to do that to you either. Grow up in your politics, grow up spiritually, socially, just grow up. Enough. Somebody's hungry today. More and more Americans are hungry today. More and more people are in the world today. And my pastor, Reverend Clay Evans, told me that God didn't make a mouth that God couldn't feed. Reverend Otis Moss told me that God will supply your every need, not your every greed. You got a lot of greedy people taking up everything. Why does Bill Gates own all the farmland in America? What's up with that? What about he ain't gonna farm nothing? And he's gonna give me some genetically modified food that will kill me soon. Or my babies. You ought to be sick of people messing over you, lording over you. The only Lord should be the Lord your God, and that is it, not another human being. Lena, I'm sick of it. How many prophets need to be sent your way? How many great people need to be sent your way before you will listen? Everybody loves Malcolm X when he's killed. Everyone loves Dr. King when he's killed. Medgar Evers, you know what? He was right. Yeah. While he's crawling as he's dying to his wife and children at his home. Come on, y'all. Come on. How many times does Lena have to run for mayor in Milwaukee before you wake up? How many times does Charles Booker have to run for the U.S. Senate? He said, I understand you. I'm a diabetic. I had to ration my insulin. I've lived in a car. Democrats outnumber Republicans in Kentucky. And yet the best you can do is offer me Mitch McConnell and Rand Paul. Baby, look, y'all deserve it until you decide you deserve something better. And I'm on that piece. Hello? Anybody there? Hello? Are y'all there? Lena? And this is not, Lena didn't endorse this.
Still present.
Huh?
The Saints are still present.
No, it makes me hot. It makes me hot. I'm watching Reverend walking around with the fighter's disease. It would be fitting that he would, as he is in his twilight years, he would have the same disease that Muhammad Ali had, sitting in that ring, rope-a-dope, just taking the hits for everybody. And still got to beg you to march. Got to beg you to join an organization to take care of yourself. Come on. Come on. Nobody's going to save you for you but you. That's not original to me. Reverend Jackson said that. Nobody's going to do you that favor. The American Revolution was not fought by the king. It was fought by you. You have to have enough. Fannie Lou Hamer said, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm going to do this, even if I'm alone in Atlantic City. I'm going to do it. Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party. I'm just going to do it. How about that? What you going to do? And I mean that, Todd. I mean that, Robert. I mean that, Lena. I see Lena going out on these. She is Doña Quixote. She's getting out here. Well, I'm going to run for mayor. I don't care what happens. Because you know what? Our people need ... Come on.
And that's Donita.
No, Donita.
Donita.
Put that tilde over that in. That's right. Donita. Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying at some point we have to grow up in our politics. And this is where we are. This is where we are, Todd. Robert, this is where we are. And you have to call people out on the things that they do that are right, lift them up on that and call them out when they're wrong and do it in a compassionate way. But somebody has to say something. Well, they're sitting here poking in the eyes of black men. I'm like, no, sugar. Wait. Because I'm sitting up here and I'm sitting on the airplane, in the restaurants, and at the campaign rallies with these white women who voting for Kemp, who voting for Herschel, who voting for Ron Johnson, who voting for Dr. Oz because John Fetterman got sick. If you get sick, are you supposed to be thrown in the trash bin? What if you have a stroke? Are you supposed to be fired from your job? Is that how this is supposed to work, Lena? Todd? Robert? Is that what's supposed to happen here? We're supposed to throw people away?
That's what happens with healthcare in America.
Okay.
If we don't push the change in policy, it happens more than we want to admit. That's why we got to vote, and we got to vote now.
And you know what?
That's why you have folks intimidating folks dropping off their early voting ballots in states because they're setting this thing up. The script has already been written. You know what it's going to look like. November 8th is election day. November 9th is when you'll see folks running the courtrooms, filing paper, dropping stuff just to muck up the system to make it questionable about what the outcomes are going to be in this upcoming election. You can already see it. You might as well just get ready for it. The way we have to buffet it is we have to make sure that we vote in such numbers that when the courts start getting involved, there are too many votes that they would have to disqualify by illegitimate means to still stand up as what's lifted up to the world as the most prominent, foremost Republican Democratic government. That's why we got to vote, because they coming.
No, they're here.
That's right.
Wait a minute. They already sitting down. They're right here. I didn't say they are. I said they here.
Been at the table.
Oh, wait a minute. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. People want to know why Reverend has worked so hard, why he won't stop. Because I told you, oh my gosh, I think I was a junior in high school, and I always used to like to be at school by 6:30 in the morning because I could have breakfast, talk with my friends for a little bit, and then I'd go to the library till my first class, which was at 8 or 8:40. I'll never forget it. In all 4 years of high school, that's just the way it was for me. But I wanted to be there early in the morning because I didn't want to be late, but I wanted my time alone in the library. So my father, appreciating that, said this particular morning he did not have any security with him, which always made me very, very anxious, very nervous. And he said, baby, I'm going to drive you to school. Oh, this morning, Lord have mercy, because he didn't really drive anymore. But it's not that he couldn't drive, but I was always very anxious for his security. But we were leaving about 5:45 in the morning, which was fine with me. He wanted to, but I knew if we were leaving that much earlier, my school was like 25, 30 minutes away by car. He wanted to speak to me. And as we're riding downtown, Lena and Robert, whoever else is here, and Todd, as we were riding downtown, he said, baby, do you notice anything about the buildings? No. I said, Daddy, what should I see? He said, look. I said, no. But I had noticed some lights were on. I said, I said, some lights are on. He said, there you go. He said, Daddy's having a meeting with the chairman of the board of Standard Oil of Indiana. He said he's one of the most important and powerful men in the country, if not the world. He said, and he and I are having breakfast at 6:30 in the morning because that is the only time in his day and mine that we have the time to meet with each other. Because, Daddy's very busy. He said, be very clear, baby, that the people who run the world are up before everybody else and they go to bed after everybody else. They outwork everybody. The people who really run this, don't you ever forget that. And don't you ever forget it, everybody. It takes a lot of energy to be in charge of your life, to be in charge of your government. It's a government formed by the people. I can't speak for anybody else's government. I can only speak for the United States government. I can look at the people of Britain who have a monarch who they say doesn't rule anything. Yeah, but before you set the government, you got to go kiss the ring. 0.1% of British citizens have voted on the new prime minister. 0.1%. When I found that out, Todd and Lena and Robert, I said, wow. And I got to beg Americans to vote. And I realize you've been disappointed, but you're going to have to get over it. Because if you can be disappointed in your husband, your wife, or your partner and stay with them, you can be disappointed in this government and stay with it and make it work for you. Get on over it. You're going to keep on getting disappointed in life if you keep on breathing in and out. If you keep on opening your eyes. And so what? So you all, let's have some, I was about to say, let's have prayer, but have closing thoughts.
Oh, this is where we say, may the Lord watch between me and thee. This is where we drop it and say, go on, enjoy your day, do your thing. Y'all stay safe. Don't cause too much trouble now. Y'all just kind of, do what you do. But tell them I see it. Don't start nothing, won't be nothing, because I'm still in recovery. The Lord's still working on me. So
no. Before you go, all jokes aside, I want a good word, and I want to hear Lena, whoever else is still here. I want Lena, your final thoughts. I know we didn't expect to go around the bend like this today, but we did, and people still with us.
Hey, it was some good stuff. And my final word is, look, your vote is your voice. You have the right to use it. I'm not here to tell you who to vote for, but I'm here to tell you that if you look at the issues that matter, Social Security, if you look at what someone's doing for businesses in your community, Black businesses and brown businesses, if you look at what is happening around the issues of voting, voter rights, voter suppression, and when you get done stacking up those things and you look at those candidates, I promise you it's going to be a stark difference, because it is in every state. I know it is in Wisconsin. And so it's important for you to cast your vote. And I want to tell you that you're probably going to be challenged when you go to the polls. Prepare to know that you may get challenges, and be prepared to seek help. Be prepared to push back. And if for some reason you don't get your ballot because you don't have access to a ballot, ask for a provisional ballot, and you can come back and cure that ballot. I think the only thing I can say is be found exercising your right to vote.
Robert, are you still there? Robert might have gone on, which I cannot blame him if he's done. Reverend, you can give us a material word and a spiritual one.
Well, I appreciate that. And it's been a hearty conversation, to say the least. I think words are inadequate. I do think in terms of when we talk about, plan your vote, vote your plan, we have to talk about how we use the tools available to be effective in this process. And one is the sample ballot. When the sample ballot comes out, you don't have to wait until you get the actual ballot and then you find yourself overwhelmed that it's more than names that you're asked to choose from. But there are ballot initiatives and constitutional amendments and authorizations to spend public money that no one really told you was going to be on the ballot. Somebody's interest made it to this piece of paper. That means that their interests are going to be addressed one way or the other. So the sample ballot process we need to have, and I think this has to be a tactic in community groups, neighborhood associations, churches, that the sample ballot exercise of sitting there, looking at, understanding what's on this ballot, so that when we go into the booth, when we file our early voting ballot, when we file our absentee ballot, it is informed by the connection between what's on the ballot and what's on our agenda. That has to be a tactic that we embrace. But at the end of the day, justice is a lifestyle. It's not an act. And simply because things haven't gone our way up till now, we still find ourselves fighting. We're looking at an uphill battle in some places based on the fact that they've stacked the deck. They're going to make you fight for it. We have to decide and commit to, in life as in politics, are the things that matter most to us worth fighting for? And this is a moment to fight, and there's a way to fight. And there's a way to fight and win. Because you'll win by 1 point because you have to, not because you choose to. The best way to make sure that the win is clear is you vote ultimately based on your representation, because the definition of Black power is not a slogan. It's the ability to swing the outcome of an election. And I'll leave you with this. In the Christian tradition, the birth of Jesus was a shock, and the first entity put on notice was the government. It's time to put the government on notice that we're not going anywhere, that our claim to the divine right of human dignity and human decency requires that we rise to this moment, and we will not back down, whatever resistance may come. It may be while we're standing in line at the polling place. It may be when we have to go to the courtroom to litigate. We know it's certainly going to be when we have to back up Mary Martha, the honorable senators, Lena and Nina, when they're doing their thing on behalf of the interests of the least of these, when they go into the hearing rooms and they start trying to cut the deals to figure out what bill is going to come out on the floor, so that then they can figure out how we start with an ideal and come out with legislation. We've got to make sure we have their back, because they're carrying the armor for us. And if we do that, justice is a lifestyle. It's not an act. We'll see progress. With progress comes a shift, and with a shift comes opportunity. And with opportunity, we leave the legacy for the next generation, that they don't inherit the same set of problems that we had to fight through on our own. So that's what I have to say. Y'all keep the faith, stay strong, and just know your brother's here.
All right. Well, you know, we're going to be having more of these discussions. And just so that you know, and thank you so much for that word, we just, growing up in Operation Breadbasket and Operation Push, we had sample ballots. Todd, I'm charging you with this. We got to go back to that. I mean, we
do that.
Yeah, but I'm saying we need to do that. We used to do that at Push. I mean, that ought to be a practice that we need to do that.
And do it on November 2nd when you show Vigilante on November 2nd, because we're going to show it again in Milwaukee on November the 2nd at the Wisconsin African American Women's Center at 6 p.m. And I'm going to make sure that we also put the sample ballot in there. I'm glad to be reminded of doing that, but I've taken it to churches and helped people to see, because often they don't understand what the referendum may mean, or they don't, know how to do the ballot, because now we don't have Democrat and Republican on the ballot the way that we used to, so that you could just do a full, all the Democrats just with one swoop, in your voting. So yes, brilliant idea. Enjoyed the show. And I just want to encourage people to be engaged and go on gregpalace.com
and look up Vigilante. The film is amazing, and there will be showings across the nation on November 2nd.
And you know what? I think we are going. I'm going to speak with you, and I don't know what the pastor's doing. I'm going to call you right now because there's something that I recommended to my mother, and she thought made a lot of sense, and I think would be a good thing if we do this together. So I'm going to call you right now as soon as we get off the air. But everybody really enjoyed this today. I'm glad you enjoyed. I'm glad you all enjoyed the conversation because we really try to have. We try to give you something that you're not getting anyplace else, and that is candid conversation, great information, and some inspiration because we need all of that. Pastor, why don't you lead us in a word of prayer? And for those who are not believers, I hope that you will be blessed by this, that this will make you feel better, and that something will be said by the pastor that will help you on your way. Pastor.
In the mystery of this moment, we pause to take assessment of the awesomeness of God. God, we thank you for the gift of life and possibility and opportunity. We thank you that there's a problem for which we are the answer. And that as we affirm the best of who we are, as we strive to become the fullness of who you've created us to be, we become better equipped to address the problem that has presented itself for this moment that gives us a sense of purpose and destiny. We thank you that we have a safe space to be able to share ideas and to affirm commitments and to encourage one another, because as iron sharpens iron, so does one person sharpen another. This has been iron sharpening time. And now that we've been equipped to go back into the battle, help us to use the weapons of our warfare, which is not carnal, but the spirit of resilience and resistance in the memory and in the history and legacy of those who have given their lives before us, going all the way back to the traditions where we understand that part of the divine plan is that life is about how you live, to give your life so that someone else might live better. Help us to be serious about this moment. Help us not be discouraged. Help us to weep not in doing well. For in due season, we believe we will reap a harvest if we faint not. And so our prayer, oh God, is that you will bless us and keep us, and that the face of your countenance will shine upon us and give us peace, a peace that surpasses all understanding, to guard our hearts and minds until we come back to this table where we share ideas, where we affirm human right and human dignity, and we do it in the universal meaning of love. We give you all glory and praise. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Everybody, I hope that you all have been blessed today. God bless you. Can't wait to be with you tomorrow on the Santita Jackson Show. It is time for the midterms. So you'll hear from me later on, Pastor, because we are talking midterms and elections straight through the 8th. Straight through the 8th. Sending you all much love. Sending you much love. Todd, have a great one. Pastor Yuri.
Thanks. You too. Take care.
That's what I have to remember. He's Pastor Yuri. That's all right. Well, you know, when I hang up the phone, you can go back to being Todd. Love you all. Love you, love you, love you, love you, everybody. Effie Rolfe said amen and amen. I guess that means God bless you, Jonelle. That's right, John. Everybody, sending you so much love. Thank you for making my day. You all do. I love you, everybody. God bless. Bye-bye.